Chapter 424. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 426. Shocking news. Yen Zihan's expression was agitated. Her face was flushed red, and she looked adorable. Cotton, flower candy talk, access. Ever since they escaped last time, Sima Kong was very confident that Qin Nan would survive. Therefore, the three of them took turns to guard this place. This time, it was her turn. As expected, Qin Nan really came back. He really didn't die. Have you been waiting for me here? Qin Nan was slightly taken aback. The three of us will take turns. I'll inform Sima Kong and Zhou Liqing now. Yen Zihan raised her hand and transmitted her voice. Not long after, Sima Kong and Zhou Liqing returned in a hurry. Even though they were panting heavily, they still looked extremely excited. Haha, I knew you weren't dead. Sima Kong took a deep breath and laughed loudly. Zhou Liqing originally had a lot of things he wanted to say, but in the end, he realized that he couldn't say a word. He could only smile foolishly. A warm current flowed through Qin Nan's heart. After the previous incident, the relationship between him and the three of them had obviously become much closer. They were extremely harmonious. Qin Nan, your aura. Yen Zihan was the first to discover the strangeness. Although Qin Nan's aura was still at the peak of the martial king realm, there seemed to be a surging power hidden in his body. Even she felt a little scared. Sima Kong and Zhou Liqing also came back to their senses. When they took a closer look, they were shocked. Qin Nan smiled and explained everything that had happened. However, he did not mention the role of the Chaos Chi. He put all the blame on a senior who had a close relationship with the two tribes. When the three of them heard this, they were all shocked, and the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Comparing oneself to others is truly infuriating. Qin Nan had encountered a dangerous situation, but not only had he turned the misfortune into a blessing, he had also obtained such a huge benefit. By the way, did you just say that the two tribes can protect us now? Sima Kong realized something and shuddered. Qin Nan nodded with a smile. Sima Kong, Yen Zihan, and Zhou Liqing gasped at the same time. Then, they all looked excited. The protection of the two great races. If that was the case, who would they be afraid of in the Qinglong Mystery Ground? I forgot to tell you. After a moment of excitement, Sima Kong quickly said, Princess Miao Miao sent me a message just now. She wants you to go to the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's land of inheritance as soon as possible. The sacred leader's land of inheritance? Could it be that she has already purchased the map? Qin Nan was stunned. On the Fortunate Encounter ranking, the map of the sacred leader's land of inheritance would cost an astronomical figure. Take a look at the Fortunate Encounter ranking, and you will know what Princess Miao Miao has done in the past month. Sima Kong said with a jealous look. Yen Zihan and Zhou Liqing also displayed a hint of respect. Qin Nan immediately opened the scroll, and almost had a scare after taking a glimpse at it. The Fortunate Encounter ranking was filled with information. The 3 forms of the Sword Highness were acquired by Princess Miao Miao. The Cave of the Ancient Tortoise was acquired by Princess Miao Miao. The succession of Peak Leader Zhang was acquired by Princess Miao Miao. There were a total of 63 pieces of information. How significant was 63 pieces of information? The grand competition of the 16 mountains only had slightly more than 100 pieces of information, and Princess Miao Miao alone had claimed half of them. Not to mention that it had only been a month. Qin Nan also noticed that even Yang Taitian had only acquired 2 of the Fortunate Encounters, and they were ranked at the bottom, which were slightly weaker than the Cave of the Godly Serpent. Since Yang Taitian was the same, there was no need to mention the other geniuses. Let's take a look at the ranking. Qin Nan soon calmed his thoughts and swiftly scanned the list. With a glimpse, his eyes opened wide and his jaw dropped once again. First, Princess Miao Miao, 99,999,000 points. Second, Yang Taitian, 3,740,000 points. Third, Shuewuji, 1,600,000 points. Fourth. That's 99,900,000 points. It was over 20 times more than Yang Taitian's and 70 times more than Shuewuji's. How many beasts had she killed? Gasp, she is going to be rich this time. Qin Nan took a deep breath. Without a doubt, she was definitely going to come first in the grand competition of the 16 mountains. Besides that, Princess Miao Miao had acquired so many benefits. Once she left the grand competition of the 16 mountains, her cultivation would skyrocket. Buzz buzz. At that instant, the sound-conducting badge on Sima Kong's waist began to vibrate vigorously. It's Princess Miao Miao. Sima Kong swiftly handed the badge to Qin Nan and said, I stumbled into her last time. She purposely left this for you. Qin Nan immediately transmitted his voice to the badge. Princess Miao Miao's pleasant voice could be heard immediately. Qin Nan, aren't I impressive now? Ugh, I don't think it's the right time to boast. By the way, you should follow Sima Kong at once and come to the succession ground of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon at once. This princess has discovered an incredible thing that has a great relationship with you. What is it? A question popped up in Qin Nan's mind. The succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was left behind by the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. What could be related to him? Princess Miao Miao fell silent for a few breaths' time, before she said in a stern tone, If I'm not mistaken, the succession of the sacred lord was left behind for you, as I can sense something similar to the godly object at the Longhu mountain range. It's incredibly strong. Qin Nan was startled. The godly object at the Longhu mountain range? Could it be the left eye of the divine god of battle? At that instant, his expression changed tremendously. If the aura was the same, did that mean there was a body part of the divine god of battle inside the succession ground of the Qinglong dragon? Come, Sima Kong, bring me to the succession ground of the sacred lord. Qin Nan did not waste any time. He said with a stern look. Sure. Sima Kong and the others exchanged glances with one another. Although they had no idea what was going on, judging from Qin Nan's expression, the succession ground of the sacred lord was not as simple as it seemed. Sima Kong led the way, while Qin Nan followed behind him. Although he seemed calm on the surface, his heart was experiencing a great storm. If the succession ground of the sacred lord indeed contained a body part of the divine god of battle, how did the sacred Lord Blue Dragon obtain it? Who exactly was the sacred Lord Blue Dragon? Why did he know so much? Countless questions were buzzing in his mind like a swarm of bees. The succession ground of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was only around 500 li away from their current location. After half an hour, Qin Nan and the others had already covered half of the distance. At that instant, a burning sensation was emitted from Qin Nan's left eye. Without any warning, the left eye of the divine god of battle began to vibrate slightly, as if it had sensed something. It was exactly the same as the time at the Longhu mountain range. Qin Nan forcefully calmed his thoughts and continued forward. After covering another 50 li, his left eye began to vibrate even more vigorously, resulting in a series of thumping sounds, like the beating of a heart. Upon seeing this, he clenched his fists tightly. The succession ground of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon really did contain a body part of the divine god of battle. P.S. Today's 5 chapters have finished a day's worth of chapters, and there are still 2 days left. Chapter 425. Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 427, The Successor of the Gambling City. Let's not think too much. Let's head to the place of succession and get the thing first. Qin Nan calmed his thoughts. There were too many questions in his mind for now. Instead of thinking too much, it was better to improve his cultivation and reach the peak martial ancestor realm, before looking for the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Visit Following this, the four proceeded to the place of succession at their fastest speed. Meanwhile, on a mountain somewhere in the Qinglong mystical ground, two figures stood on the mountain. One of them was none other than Yang Taitian. As for the young man beside Yang Taitian, he was wearing a plain outfit, with a faint smile on his face, which perfectly displayed the prideful aura hidden deep within his bones. If any other disciples were present, they would discover that this person was the second-ranked among the three sons of the Shao clan, the current successor of the gambling city, Shao Hong. I've just received the news. Princess Miao Miao is on her way to the place of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's succession. Yang Taitian's expression turned slightly unpleasant. According to his father's instructions, the trial of the Qinglong mystical ground was specifically targeted at Qin Nan. However, in the end, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon suddenly mentioned that his succession was located there, causing him to have the urge to acquire it. However, he did not expect this Princess Miao Miao to be so powerful. Until now, not only had he failed to eliminate Qin Nan, he had also failed to acquire the place of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's succession. Don't worry, according to my prediction, Princess Miao Miao will most likely summon Qin Nan to the place of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's succession. A love go little say, Chu Shao Hong calmly said, these people have met each other. Once we find their location and contact the brothers Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng, we will be able to eliminate them all. Yang Taitian's face revealed a trace of doubt as he asked, how do we find their location? Saintess Jiang Bailan had foreseen this. She specifically gave me a unique treasure. Through this unique treasure, we can find the location of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's legacy. With a flip of his right hand, an ancient mirror appeared in his palm. This ancient mirror had 6 large dragons coiling around its frame. Each dragon had a 5-clawed golden body and looked extremely domineering. 5-clawed golden dragon, search for the inheritance. Shao Hong roared and channeled his energy into the ancient mirror. The entire ancient mirror let out a series of roars, and 6 5-clawed golden dragons soared into the sky from the ancient mirror, disappearing into the distance. A moment later, the ancient mirror emitted a glow that was only around 100 li away from them. Amazing! Yang Taitian could not help but exclaim in admiration. It's only a small trick on our side. We'll need Brother Yang's help to deal with Qin Nan. Shao Hong said without revealing anything. That won't be a problem. Yang Taitian let out a hollow laugh. For the grand competition of the 16 mountains, his father was worried that Qin Nan would interfere with his plan at the Ocean of Death. Thus he had prepared many tricks up his sleeves. However, to his surprise, the eldest brother of the third son of the Shao clan and the saintess of the trading alliance, Jiang Bailan, were planning to deal with Qin Nan too, thus they had sent Shao Hong here. Now that he had teamed up with Shao Hong and Xue Wuji, how could Qin Nan survive this? I'll transmit my voice to Xue Wuji. Shao Hong transmitted his voice and exchanged glances with Yang Taitian. Without wasting any time, their figures left the place with a flicker. We're here. Sima Kong came to a stop. Qin Nan glanced at his surroundings and saw a lake in front of them. The entire lake was emitting an eerie blood-red color with a strange aura. In the center of the lake there was a stone pillar. It looked very ordinary. The succession of the Qinglong dragon is inside the stone pillar. Qin Nan's left eye shuddered violently, but he did not act recklessly, as he could vaguely sense that the lake was extremely strange, as if it was hiding some kind of danger. Qin Nan. At that instant, a pleasant voice could be heard. A tall and slender young woman walked over. Her black hair was tied up in a bun, and her eyes were black and shiny. Her face was delicate and fair, and she looked like a fairy who had come to the mortal world. Not a speck of dust could be seen, and her temperament was noble. Sima Kong and Zhou Liqing's eyes flickered with astonishment. Qin Nan reacted the same way. He also discovered that Princess Miao Miao seemed to have grown taller again. Previously she was only around 15 years old, but now she seemed to be 18 years old. This lake is known as the Bloodlust Lake. Any living being that enters it will lose their ability to fight and be corroded by the water, leaving nothing behind. Those below the martial dominator realm are not allowed to enter it. Princess Miao Miao glanced at Yan Zihan and continued, "Now that we've discovered the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, according to the rules, we will have to wait for 16 hours before the Bloodlust Lake fully dissipates." 16 hours, huh? Qin Nan was slightly startled, before he calmed his thoughts and told himself not to be impatient. By the way, someone was using an artifact to spy on this place. Princess Miao Miao harumphed and said, "If I'm not mistaken, the location of the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon has most likely been exposed." Qin Nan and Sima Kong exchanged glances with one another, as a name immediately popped up in their minds. Yang Taitian. If they were not mistaken, the other party must have predicted that he would come to the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, thus they had locked onto this place and immediately came here for the final battle. Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly as he said in a calm tone, "Let them come if they want to. That's right, I'm quite poor now, so I need to rob more." Princess Miao Miao burst out laughing, as her eyes squinted into the shape of a crescent moon, resulting in an adorable appearance. Sima Kong and the others could feel their lips twitching. Did she just say that she was poor after robbing more than 60 places of fortunate encounters? Let's wait for a while. Qin Nan did not say anything further. He sat down with his legs crossed and withdrew his thoughts. The appearance of the body part of the divine god of battle caused his thoughts to fluctuate rapidly. He was no longer as calm as before, as he would need to retrieve the body part of the divine god of battle later on, thus he had to recover his condition and give it his all. Sima Kong, Yan Zihan, and Zhou Liqing were aware of the current situation too. They sat down with their legs crossed without saying anything further. Only Princess Miao Miao sat on a boulder and held her chin with her hand while staring at the pillar above the Bloodlust Lake. She would occasionally glance at Qin Nan with an excited expression, as if she was thinking about something. Time gradually passed. 14 hours were gone in the blink of an eye. The thick blood-red color on the surface of the bloodthirsty lake began to recede. It became extremely thin, as if only a layer of blood-red clothing was left. In just a moment the entire lake would become clear again. At that instant a burst of laughter could be heard all of a sudden. Chapter 426. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 428. The battle begins. Qin Nan and the others opened their eyes and glanced toward the entrance. Advertisement. 79XS. The newcomers were none other than Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng. Their cultivations had improved tremendously, causing their bodies to emit a strong icy force. Each step they took would cause the surrounding grass to be covered in a layer of white frost. It was obvious that they had encountered some fortunate encounters after entering the Qinglong mystical ground. Yan Zihan and Zhou Liqing were startled. Xue Wuheng was not a threat to them, but this Xue Wuji was extremely terrifying. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. He still remembered how Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng had shamelessly reneged on their debt due to their strength. However, before he could make his move, Princess Miao Miao suddenly spoke. TSK, where did these two shameless people come from? Not paying their debts, this princess has learned something new. Impressive, impressive. Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng's expressions stiffened. If it were Qin Nan or Yan Zihan, they would have made their moves long ago. However, this Princess Miao Miao's strength was immeasurable, and it was highly possible that her strength was stronger than theirs. Humph, enough with the nonsense. In an hour's time, the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon will be activated. Once we acquire it, you will be begging for mercy. Xue Wuji stood aside and said with a hollow laugh. Qin Nan, Do you really think you'll survive after such a grand scheme? I'll be waiting. Love go little say, Netu Chu Chin Nan calmly said. Although Xue Wuji was his enemy, his main goal was to acquire the body part of the divine god of battle. The rest of the enemies were secondary. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of piercing sounds could be heard all of a sudden. A bald, bulky man wearing a golden robe with a formidable aura could be seen. Behind him stood several young men, each with a powerful aura and a prideful look on their faces. Yan Zihan and Zhou Liqing's expressions changed upon seeing this. Isn't that the son of the peak leader of the 9th peak, the 8th-ranked Han Fei? Why is Li Yunlong here too? They were familiar with the 5 cultivators before them, who were either ranked in the top 10 on the custodian's ranking or possessed formidable backgrounds. Most importantly, how did they know where the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was? After glancing at Qin Nan's crew, the eyes of Han Fei's crew flickered, before they turned around and started chatting with Xue Wuji and his brother, as if they were old friends who had known each other for many years. It seems like Yang Taitian is the one behind this. These people must have been roped in by him and joined forces to fight me. Qin Nan mumbled to himself, but his expression remained calm. Yan Zihan, Zhou Liqing, how bold of you two to side with Qin Nan. At that instant, a ferocious roar could be heard, which turned out to be Yang Taitian and Xiao Hong. Brother Yang. Brother Xiao. Greetings, Brother Yang. Hee, Brother Yang, Brother Xiao, you're finally here. Xue Wuji, Han Fei, and the others immediately spoke in a respectful manner. Yang Taitian nodded his head and placed his hands behind him as he glanced at Yan Zihan and Zhou Liqing and said in a cold tone, I'm going to deal with Qin Nan. If you two were to stand beside him, you would be considered my enemy. You would die for sure if you were to oppose us. Yan Zihan and Zhou Liqing's faces turned slightly pale. They could tell that the 9 cultivators led by Yang Taitian were here specifically to deal with Qin Nan. A hint of hesitation appeared in their hearts, but they immediately made up their minds as they recalled the scene in the cave of the godly serpent. Is that so? Both of their faces calmed down. Why would they betray Qin Nan at this moment? It was impossible. Yang Taitian's eyes flickered with astonishment. He did not expect Qin Nan to be so close to these two. However, it did not matter, as it would not make any difference to the outcome of the battle. Friend Qin Nan, it's our first time meeting. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Xiao Hong, Xiao Feipeng's brother. Xiao Hong calmly said, I'm here to participate in the grand competition of the 16 mountains on behalf of my brother. Jiang Bailan is my brother's lover. My brother is infuriated because of your continuous attacks on her. I'm sorry, but I'm going to kill you. Xiao Hong's tone was extremely calm, without any hint of murderous intent. However, the calmness of his tone was even more terrifying. Yan Zihan and Zhou Liqing both sucked in a breath of cold air. Xiao Hong, one of the 3 sons of the Xiao clan, the successor of the gambling city, one of the 3 ancient cities. According to the rumors, not only was his talent extraordinary, his cultivation was outstanding, and his gambling skills were incredible too. However, Qin Nan clenched his teeth without even glancing at Xiao Hong. Jiang Bailan again. Who would have thought that she would still be scheming behind his back, adding more powerful enemies to his list of enemies? Not to mention the so-called eldest brother of the Xiao clan. He had never seen him before, but he had sent his 3rd brother and 2nd brother just because of a mere Jiang Bailan. Did he really think he was a pushover? Jiang Bailan, and this eldest brother of the Xiao clan, I'll pay you guys a visit after the grand competition of the 16 mountains. Qin Nan took a deep breath to calm his thoughts. His gaze ignored Yang Taitian and the others, as he glanced at the Bloodlust Lake. Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others did not expect Qin Nan to ignore their presence, causing them to be enraged. However, it was not the time for them to make their move yet. Their priority was to acquire the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, before dealing with Qin Nan. At that instant, the time limit of 16 hours was up. The entire bloodthirsty lake had become completely clear, without the slightest trace of blood. The strange ripples had completely disappeared as well. Following this, the stone pillar at the center of the bloodlust lake emitted a glow, which transformed into a human figure. The figure was none other than the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Not bad, I did not expect so many people to come to the place of my succession. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon smilingly said, "My succession is quite simple. On this stone pillar there is a handprint. With enough talent, one can press their hand into the handprint, and the stone pillar will be opened. Once the stone pillar is opened, there will be a treasure inside. I won't talk too much about this treasure. With it, you will have no problem ranking up to the Martial Highness realm in the future." After hearing this, even Princess Meow Meow's breathing intensified. Ranking up to the Martial Highness realm. A treasure that could allow one to rank up to the Martial Highness realm, how significant was that? Qin Nan was slightly startled. Only a treasure. Did that mean the succession only contained a body part of the divine god of battle? The sacred Lord Blue Dragon wore a satisfied expression after seeing the crowd's reaction. "Very well, let the competition begin." After saying this, his figure disappeared. The handprint on the stone pillar emitted a colorful glow, which was extremely eye-catching in the middle of the lake. The atmosphere of the place instantly froze, as everyone's bodies tensed. "Do it!" Chapter 427. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 429 Chessboard Martial Spirit Flash Escape. Explosive Godly Fire Orb. Illusionary Sword Intent. Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others executed powerful martial skills or mystical weapons, causing their auras to tremble as they dashed toward the center of the lake at a rapid pace. 79XS. The Bloodlust Lake was not huge, as the distance between them and the pillars was less than 100 meters. 4 Martial Ancestor Realm Cultivators. A distance of 100 meters would only take them a few breaths' time. Bang! An explosion took place all of a sudden. Qin Nan's figure sprang into the sky like an atavistic beast, overtaking Yang Taitian and the others in the blink of an eye. His speed was absolutely terrifying. Such speed! Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others were slightly shocked. "I'll stop him." Xue Wuji uttered a roar as his body was covered in snow, which transformed into a bloody mouth that tore at Qin Nan's figure. He had benefited greatly from his trip to the Qinglong mystical ground, causing his strength to improve significantly. Therefore, Xue Wuji was extremely confident that he could defeat Qin Nan with a single attack. "Piss off!" Qin Nan's hair danced wildly as he lashed out a punch, causing countless flames of the phoenix to rise into the sky and melt the snow. The remaining force of the flames struck Xue Wuji's figure without mercy. Xue Wuji's eyes were filled with astonishment, as he had not expected Qin Nan's strength to be this terrifying. In the blink of an eye, he executed the godly ice technique and summoned layers of ice shields to resist the attack. Bang! The ice shields were shattered into pieces, while Xue Wuji's figure was sent flying by the terrifying flames of the phoenix. Advertisement: How is this possible? The eyes of Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others flickered with astonishment. This was Xue Wuji, ranked second on the Protector ranking. How could he not be able to withstand a single attack from Qin Nan? Little did they know that Qin Nan had already merged the Thunder Marrow and the Fire Core, allowing him to master the Sky Thunder intent and the Vermilion Bird Flame intent. Xue Wuji and the others were no match against him. Clear the heart and eliminate the devils. Kill all the devils. It was as if Qin Nan had transformed into a divine god of battle, summoning a giant bell that was surrounded by thunderous rays, resulting in a terrifying might. It encapsulated Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others within it, before it was struck, resulting in a loud chime. Bang! 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 Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others did not expect the attack to be so quick. Before they could react, their figures were instantly crushed by the giant bell and were sent flying. At the same time, Princess Miao Miao and the others rushed towards the stone pillar in the middle of the lake. Qin Nan! Yang Taitian let out a furious roar. How could this be? Since when did this guy become so powerful all of a sudden? Just a while ago, Qin Nan had no chance to fight back when he was being chased by them. And now, Qin Nan was able to knock all 9 of them back with a single attack. Let's work together. At that instant, Xue Wuji swiftly arrived with a trail of blood on his lips and uttered a roar. The 2 outstanding geniuses immediately teamed up and attacked Qin Nan from both sides. I'll deal with you later. Qin Nan glanced at the 2 coldly, before he fired a thunderous flame with a kick at the speed of a sword, slashing the surface of the lake in half as he dashed toward the stone pillar. Shit! Yang Taitian and Xue Wuji were astounded. At such a speed, it was too late for them to stop him. Qin Nan, don't even think about acquiring the succession. At that instant, a loud roar could be heard all of a sudden, which turned out to be Xiao Hong's figure flying above the lake. 6 green rays were emitted from his back, and in the middle of the rays floated a pitch-black chessboard with a black and white pattern. The chessboard martial spirit, intertwining the heavens and earth. All living things are the chess pieces, all living beings are the chess pieces. Xiao Hong's aura skyrocketed as he waved his hand, causing the chessboard martial spirit to expand rapidly, covering the entire lake. Following this, rays of light were fired from the chessboard into the bodies of Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and the others. Qin Nan and the others were stunned. Move. With a flick of Xiao Hong's finger, Qin Nan and the others lost control of their bodies and were sent flying backward. In the blink of an eye, they were dragged toward the shore of the lake. It turned out that the chessboard martial spirit was able to possess one's body, turning them into chess pieces under the control of its owner. Charge! Yang Taitian and the others were immersed in joy as they dashed forward. Shit! Qin Nan and the others were startled. Stay here. Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, Zhou Liqing, and Yan Zihan immediately executed powerful attacks or unleashed their martial spirits, resulting in a tremendous impact. World of ice and snow. Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng sprang into the air and clasped their hands together. Their martial spirits were summoned behind them, causing countless snowflakes to appear, which formed a giant ice wall in front of the crowd in the blink of an eye. When all the attacks landed on the ice wall, they only caused a series of explosions. They didn't damage it at all. Move. Xiao Hong's finger moved once again, trying to control Qin Nan's figure. Illusionary fire beacon banner. Princess Miao Miao waved her hand, causing a giant fiery banner to appear in her palm. She waved it in the direction of the sky, causing countless gray flames to encapsulate the chessboard like the flames of the rift. Xiao Hong's face turned pale. This illusionary fire beacon banner was nothing ordinary, as it was able to attack his martial spirit directly. Flames of the Phoenix, heaven-shattering fist. Qin Nan uttered a roar into the sky as his body was engulfed in flames, while his fiery cloak was swept toward the sky. It was as if he had transformed into a god of fire as he lashed out a punch in the direction of the icy world. Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng wore mocking expressions on their faces. This icy world was created by the 2 brothers, how could it be destroyed so easily? Heavenly accumulating strike. Qin Nan's aura shuddered violently, causing the burning flames and the cloak to be sucked toward the tip of his fist, which then turned into a tiny flame and struck the ice wall. Bang! The smiles on Xue Wuji and Xue Wuheng's faces stiffened instantly. It was as if the giant ice wall had been struck by an atavistic hammer, causing it to crumble instantly. Countless pieces of ice danced in the air like a huge snowstorm. Qin Nan did not show any sign of joy from the victory. He immediately raised his head and his face stiffened with a glimp. Yang Taitian and the others had arrived at the stone pillar. "You're too late." Chapter 428. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 430. The deceptive sacred leader. Qin Nan's eyes widened. A love go little say, W. Chu access. The expressions of Princess Meow Meow and the others changed. With such a great distance between them, there was no way they could react in time. Ha ha ha! Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and Shui Wuheng could not help but burst out laughing. Qin Nan's outstanding strength had given them a great shock. But so what? In the end, the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon would still be theirs. As Yang Taitian's hand landed on the handprint, a hint of excitement could be seen on his face. This was the succession of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, which would allow him to rank up to the Martial Highness realm in the future. Furthermore, this thing could even change his destiny, allowing him to become the hope in the eyes of his father and the others, granting him a bright future. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. After a period of over 10 breaths, the crowd finally realized that something was not right. The stone pillar showed no reaction, as if it had fallen into a dead silence. The expressions of Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and Shui Wuheng stiffened. The excitement on Yang Taitian's face froze too. What was going on? Why was there no reaction from the stone pillar? According to the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, anyone with enough talent would be able to open it. Yang Taitian, with a 6th grade Xian ranked martial spirit, ranked first on the custodian ranking, was still not talented enough? After another period of over 20 breaths, Yang Taitian's expression turned incredibly dark as he uttered a roar. Han Fei, give it a try. Han Fei shuddered after hearing the roar, before he stepped forward and placed his hand on the handprint. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. After a period of over 10 breaths, there was still no reaction from the stone pillar. Give it a try. Green veins popped out on Yang Taitian's forehead. The others immediately stepped forward. Even after the 4 of them were done, there was still no reaction from the stone pillar. Let me try. Xiao Hong's expression turned dark as he stepped forward and placed his hand on the stone pillar, but there was still no reaction. How could this be? Shui Wuji and Shui Wuheng were there too, but the outcome was the same. At this moment, the entire surface of the lake fell into an enormous deathly silence. Not only were Yang Taitian and the others dumbfounded, even Qin Nan and the other 4 were stunned. Something's not right. How could so many geniuses fail to open the stone pillar? Let's go and take a look. Princess Meow Meow regained her senses and immediately gave the order. When Yang Taitian and the others saw their figures, they wanted to stop them. However, on second thought, if even they couldn't open the door, would this group of people be able to? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Princess Meow Meow, Sima Kong, Yan Zihan, and Zhou Liqing tried, but the stone pillar remained motionless. This time, everyone fell silent. So many geniuses were unable to open the door. Something was definitely wrong. Could it be that the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was here to trick them? That didn't make sense either. Why would a sacred leader do something like this? Countless doubts and doubts swirled in the minds of the crowd. Let me have a try. Qin Nan had no idea what was going on, but he had to get his hands on the body part of the divine god of battle. He then took a step forward and placed his hand on the seal. Meanwhile, Yang Taitian, who was in a bad mood, could not help but let out a hollow laugh. Qin Nan, who do you think you are? So many geniuses failed to open the stone pillar, and you think you can do it? What a joke. The others shook their heads. They would never believe that Qin Nan would be able to open the stone pillar. However, at that instant, as Qin Nan placed his hand on the stone pillar, a rare occurrence took place. The stone pillar let out a buzz, as countless rays of light were fired into the sky. Yang Taitian was stunned. The crowd was stunned too. What the F***K was going on? How was Qin Nan able to open the stone pillar? The rays of light floated in the air and slowly transformed into a figure, which turned out to be the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon stood in the air and glanced at Qin Nan with a kind look. Qin Nan, I've already told you about it at the Duanmu Mountain. However, there were too many people around, so I couldn't explain it clearly. As a matter of fact, this succession is specifically prepared for you. As soon as the words were spoken, the faces of Yang Taitian and the others instantly turned green. Specifically prepared for Qin Nan? Damn it, it was specially prepared for Qin Nan. Why did you announce it so solemnly? Weren't you trying to trick them? They had even tried their best to compete for the succession of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Qin Nan was startled. Specifically prepared for him? Before he had time to think, cracks suddenly appeared on the entire stone pillar, crawling all over its body. Then, with a bang, the stone pillar shattered. Bang! A terrifying aura was fired into the sky all of a sudden. Crap! Princess Meow Meow let out a scream. Apart from Qin Nan, an invisible force struck the figures of the crowd, sending them flying and landing on the opposite side of the lake. What's going on? Yang Taitian and the others immediately rose to their feet. When they saw Qin Nan standing at the center of the lake in perfect condition, they could not help but curse. F***K. Are you kidding me? Not only did he prepare the succession for Qin Nan, he even sent all of them flying at the last moment. This Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was not only toying with them, he was bullying them too. However, in the next moment, they were so shocked by the scene before them that they were unable to utter a single word. At the center of the lake, a tremendous crimson glow was fired into the sky, dyeing the area within 20 li in the color of blood. The rift began to vibrate vigorously, while the ground began to tremble. It was as if countless figures of deities and demons had risen from the ground and uttered a series of cries. Its appearance was worshipped by all living beings. Qin Nan's mind went blank as he stared at the thing before him. It felt like countless claps of thunder were echoing in his soul. At the center of the shattered stone pillar, there was a jade box. Within the jade box, there was a drop of purple blood floating in the air. The drop of purple blood seemed to possess some sort of intelligence. When it saw Qin Nan, it began to tremble vigorously, as if it had been awakened from a long slumber. A boundless battle intent was unleashed, battling against the sky, the ground, and everything else. Even after 100 years, 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, it would never decay. Battle! 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 Chapter 429. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 431. All the trump cards are played. The crowd was stunned, and the place fell into a dead silence. Advertisement. Accessed. It's the blood of the divine god of battle. Qin Nan collected his thoughts. He could feel the blood in his body turning restless before the blood of the divine god of battle. That being said, Qin Nan was unable to inspect his body with his inner sight. Otherwise, he would discover that the blood in his body had formed some sort of ancient runes, which were complicated and intertwined with each other, like an ancient map. I can't consume it yet. I shall endure it for a while and settle the matter first. Qin Nan withheld the restlessness in his heart, and with a wave of his hand, he kept the jade box into his storage bag. The rare phenomenon in the surroundings vanished, as the place returned to normal. Be it Princess Meow Meow and her crew, or Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others, they were all astounded, as the aura emitted by the drop of blood had impacted their souls. Qin Nan. After a while, Yang Taitian collected his thoughts, as his eyes were filled with greed and a hint of murderous intent. In addition to him, Xiao Hong, Xuewuji, and the others reacted the same way too. They were all geniuses of the sacred areas, with formidable backgrounds and extraordinary knowledge. Although they had no idea what the drop of blood was, they clearly knew that it was just as the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had mentioned, that the drop of blood would allow them to achieve the Martial Highness realm in the future. How could they not be interested in such a precious treasure? What now? Trying to rob me? Qin Nan's eyes sharpened as he said, I can forget about the conflict between us, but if you guys are serious about robbing me, don't blame me for being merciless. Merciless? Ridiculous. Hand over the stuff, and I'll spare your life. Yang Taitian let out a hollow laugh. Following a series of piercing sounds, 16 armored knights approached the crowd, each emitting a powerful aura. Reading in full, 16 king medallions merge into one. Yang Taitian uttered a roar as his aura merged with the 16 knights, forming a single entity. At that instant, a terrifying suppression burst out, as if the current Yang Taitian was no longer a martial ancestor realm expert, but a martial dominator realm expert. In addition to that, Xiao Hong, Xuewuji, and the others glared at Qin Nan with murderous intent. Looks like I have to use the token, Qin Nan said to himself. Although he was powerful now, it was impossible for him to win against such a lineup. At that instant, a disdainful voice could be heard. What 16 emperors? Wasn't it just a puppet clone? What was there to show off? This princess's luck was pretty good a while ago and obtained a bug. I'll let you see the power of this bug. Princess Meow Meow waved her hand, and a small worm the size of an eyeball flew out. The bug looked like a centipede with 1,000 legs and 8 pairs of wings. Its fangs were exposed, and a red dot could be seen on its forehead. However, the moment it appeared, it caused Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Xuewuji, and the others to all lose their color. Chew, red centipede. It's a red centipede. Damn it, how did she get her hands on such a poisonous thing? The red centipede was extremely terrifying, as it was able to ignore attacks, defenses, and formations. Furthermore, it contained a deadly poison, which would spread to the target's soul with a single bite. Even a martial dominator would die instantly. As for Sima Kong, Yan Zihan, and Zhou Liqing, they wore relaxed expressions without showing any sign of worry. Yan Zihan was usually cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Furthermore, she was quite familiar with Han Fei and the others, thus she could not help but say, "Guys, you should back off. Don't force junior brother Qin Nan to unleash his wrath. You won't be able to handle it." She did not expect Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and the others to be infuriated after hearing her words. Initially, Qin Nan had advised them not to attack, but now even Yan Zihan was advising them against it. Won't be able to handle it? How could they not handle a mere Qin Nan? Did they really think a mere red centipede was enough to scare them away? Xuewuji, do it. Xiao Hong let out a stern shout. Xuewuji's eyes wore a cold grin as he took out a snow-white ice flute and placed it near his mouth, before he began to play an ancient tune, which drifted into the surroundings. Qin Nan, you will die today. Yang Taitian's aura skyrocketed as he glared at Qin Nan. He waved his hand, and 3 talismans appeared in his hand. Princess Meow Meow's expression changed slightly after taking a glimpse. She was familiar with the 3 talismans, as they were the same talismans that Xiao Feiping had used at the martial ancestor mystical ground. Qin Nan's eyes glistened. It went without saying that he recognized the talismans, but he did not expect Yang Taitian and the others to use such a trick just to deal with him. If that was the case, Qin Nan did not hesitate and transmitted his divine sense to the 2 talismans. Can't handle it? Xiao Hong let out a hollow laugh as he took out a talisman and pinched it, causing it to explode into countless rays of light. At that instant, the space within 3 li was plunged into darkness, as countless ferocious gusts of wind howled, causing an indescribable suppression to appear, causing one's heart to feel heavy. 3 talismans combined into one, The arrival of the peak leader. Yang Taitian unleashed his full force, causing the 3 talismans to burn fiercely. His hands moved slowly, merging the 3 talismans into one, which transformed into a beam of light that fired into the air. Bang! The space within 10 li began to explode. The cracks continued to spread in the void. The bigger the cracks, the more terrifying the pressure that was leaking out of the cracks. This is, Sima Kong and the others were stunned. They did not expect Yang Taitian and Xiao Hong to go this crazy just to deal with Qin Nan. Qin Nan wore a calm expression as he raised his head and glanced into the sky. Bang! Bang! Following the 2 explosions, the void suddenly collapsed, and 2 imposing figures stepped out from it. The arrival of the 2 figures caused the heavens and earth to lose their brilliance, as they became the dominant presence in the heavens and earth. The suppression of the martial highness realm caused everyone to feel a sense of worship, as if they were minuscule. The 2 figures were none other than Yang Fengzhu and the city lord of Slaughter City. Roar! 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 At that instant, the ice flute that Xue Wuji was blowing exploded all of a sudden. In less than a breath's time after the explosion, 3 shocking roars could be heard. 3 enormous figures could be seen arriving from a distance away, like 3 icebergs, causing the surroundings to be filled with cold gusts of wind and snowflakes to dance in the air. The 3 figures were none other than 3 peak martial dominator realm beasts, who were ranked 3rd on the beast ranking, the Icy Fang Tigers. Princess Miao Miao's expression changed after seeing this. These people were out of their minds. They were willing to use such a powerful formation just to deal with Qin Nan. What exactly had Qin Nan done to provoke them? Qin Nan, Yang Fengzhu and the city lord of Slaughter City turned their heads around and glanced at Qin Nan. The 3 Icy Fang Tigers glanced at Qin Nan coldly too. Die. Chapter 430. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 432. The rare occurrence of the ocean of death. As the rare occurrence of the Qinglong mystical ground, in the lower district of the Kanglan continent. Love go little say ku. That was fast. In the northernmost region of the lower district, there was a boundless ocean. The ocean was pitch black in color, emitting a strong deathly aura, and buried within it were countless secrets. This place was none other than the ocean of death. However, on this particular day, it was as if something in the ocean of death was awakened after being aware of something, resulting in a shocking change. The rare occurrence served as a great explosion to the experts of the Qinglong sacred area and the Feiyang sacred area, causing them to be startled. What's happening to the ocean of death? Strange, it seems like it's the first time a rare occurrence has occurred after thousands of years. Come, let's go and take a look. Countless experts and peak leaders immediately unleashed their will and headed to the ocean of death. Meanwhile, in the Qinglong sacred area, the rare occurrence of the ocean of death is related to Junior Sister's life. We have to take a look at it ourselves. The figures of the Duanmu Mountain Lord and peak leader Zhang sprang into the sky and exchanged glances with one another before coming to a consensus and heading straight to the ocean of death. Inside the Qinglong sacred area, the eyes of countless experts flickered slightly after seeing the two's actions. TSK, Qin Nan is going to die soon. I can't wait to see how you're going to save your junior sister. Yang Fengzhu stood among the 16 mountains and wore a cold grin upon seeing this. A moment later, his eyes were filled with a hint of doubt as he glanced toward the deepest part of the Qinglong sacred area. He had a feeling that the rare occurrence of the ocean of death was somehow related to the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. It was even possible that the old man's lifespan had come to an end. Yang Fengzhu's eyes flickered coldly as he took a deep breath and transmitted a message. It's a serious matter. I'll contact the upper district and ask them to take a look. If the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's time is really up, we'll have to bring forward our plan. At the same time, in the deepest part of the Qinglong sacred area, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon stood in the courtyard, looking up at the void. His hair began to turn white rapidly. A strong aura of death burst out from his body, as if it could no longer be concealed. Since I don't have much time left, I'll let you get this drop of blood in advance. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon muttered to himself, everything has to be brought forward. When my life ends, Qin Nan, oh Qin Nan, go crazy. That being said, none of the rare phenomena were related to the Qinglong mystical ground. Meanwhile, in the Qinglong mystical ground, Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and Shui Wuji wore smirks on their faces. This was their trump card. A stream of divine scents from 2 martial highnesses, and 3 icy fanged tigers. With such a lineup, even if Qin Nan had any trump cards, he would still be crushed to death. What bullshit, peerless genius. There were hundreds of ways to kill you. Princess Miao Miao wore a panicked expression as she was about to use her trump card. However, she suddenly discovered that Qin Nan and Sima Kong's trio were calm too, causing her to halt her actions. Meanwhile, the 2 peak leaders and the 3 icy fanged tigers had executed their strongest attacks. The surroundings began to collapse, as countless forces surged in all directions like a raging ocean. Qin Nan was like a tiny ant before the force, who would die in the blink of an eye. However, his expression remained calm, as if nothing had happened to him. Yang Fengzhu and the Slaughter City Lord were aware of something strange, but they immediately shook their heads. Since they were currently inside the Qinglong mystical ground, the Duanmu Mountain Lord and his crew would not be able to save Qin Nan in time. Even if Qin Nan had the will of the Duanmu Mountain Lord, he would surely die under the combined attacks of the 2 peak leaders and the 3 beasts. However, at that instant a rare occurrence took place. Roar! A deafening roar exploded in the air, as a beast claw covered in terrifying lightning traveled across the sky, covering the heavens and earth like an ancient mountain, which instantly shattered the attacks of the 2 peak leaders and the 3 beasts. This is, Yang Fengzhu and the Slaughter City Lord were dumbfounded as they had not expected this. The 3 icy fanged tigers seemed to be aware of something, causing their eyes to widen as their faces were filled with astonishment. Bang! Bang! The space was shattered as 2 terrifying beasts sprang out from it, who turned out to be Lei Bao and Huoba. Bang! 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 As soon as the 2 peak leaders arrived, several enormous sky thunderous beasts and fiery winged birds appeared behind them, which instantly filled the entire place, causing the area within 20 li to be covered in lightning and flames. 13 sky thunderous beasts, 9 fiery winged birds, 2 peak beast tribes had arrived. Roar! 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 Following this, a series of roars echoed in the heavens and earth, causing the ground in the distance to tremble rapidly. Countless earthfire ferocious bulls, domineering ape beast dominator beast, godly bird beast dominator beast, ancient flying insect tribe, and other beasts of the martial ancestor realm and the martial dominator realm surged forward like a surging tide, sealing off the path. At that instant, the area within 40 li had turned into an ocean of beasts. In addition to the 2 major tribes, there were 107 powerful beasts that were summoned upon hearing the summons. Even a martial highness realm expert would feel his scalp turning numb and his heart shuddering upon seeing such a huge tide of beasts, causing him to immediately flee from the scene. Yang Fengzhu and the Slaughter City Lord were dumbfounded. The eyes of the 3 icy fanged tigers widened into the size of needles as their bodies trembled vigorously. The prideful smiles on the faces of Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and the others froze as their souls began to tremble. What was going on? Why were there so many beasts here? Could it be that all the beasts of the Qinglong mystical ground were here? Lei Bao, Huoba, I know you too. You are both beasts of the Qinglong sacred area. This kid is now a sinner of the Qinglong sacred area. You better not stop him. Otherwise, the Qinglong sacred area will eliminate all of you. As expected of a martial highness, Yang Fengzhu soon calmed his thoughts and snapped. However, before he could finish, Lei Bao and Huaba both became enraged. Piss off! How bold! The two beasts were only a step away from achieving the martial highness realm after consuming the chaos chi. Furthermore, with the talents of their tribes, the boundless sky thunder and phoenix flames struck Yang Fengzhu's will like a raging tide, shattering it instantly. Kill! Lei Bao uttered a roar. The 13 sky thunderous beasts, the 9-headed fiery-winged bird, and over 100 beasts in the sky uttered roars, as if they were going to shatter the sky into pieces. The overwhelming attacks exploded and landed onto the figures of the 3 icy-fanged tigers and the Slaughter City Lord, instantly vanishing into nothingness. The crowd was utterly dumbfounded. This was called destruction. In the face of this terrifying attack, all living beings were powerless to fight back. After the 2 martial highnesses and the 3 icy-fanged tigers were eliminated, the entire place fell silent once again. Only the countless beasts remained floating in the sky while emitting a terrifying aura, causing one's heart to tremble. The faces of Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and the others had turned extremely pale. Their minds were completely blank, as they could not think of anything. Chapter 431. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 433. The great shock and sway the figures of Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and the others stiffened. Read the full article. For more information, visit www. Under the attacks of the beasts, it felt like their throats were being gripped by a giant hand, preventing them from saying a single word, as their hearts were filled with terror. Kill Qin Nan? That's impossible. Even if they were given 100 guts, they would not dare to do it. Pfft. Princess Miao Miao could not help but burst out laughing like a blooming flower. Qin Nan was such a bad guy, asking the question on purpose. Wasn't that the same as slapping their faces? Guys, I did try to persuade you before, but none of you listened to me. Yan Zihan shook her head with a cold expression, showing no sign of pity. She had tried to persuade them out of kindness, but they had become even angrier. She could only say that they had brought this upon themselves. Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and the others almost vomited blood after hearing the words. Listen to you? Who would have thought that Qin Nan was backed by a bunch of terrifying beasts? If they had known, how would they dare to attack him? Speak! Qin Nan yelled fiercely. These people had tried to attack him again and again. Did they really think he was a pushover? Yang Taitian and the others shuddered violently after hearing the roar. Qin Nan. Yang Taitian stared at the pairs of eyes and forced himself to say, It's our fault. We're sorry. We'll apologize to you. Apologize to me? Qin Nan burst out laughing. He had finally witnessed the true meaning of being shameless today. Read the full article. These people had tried to attack him and almost killed him, and now they thought an apology was enough? How ridiculous. Die. Qin Nan was too lazy to waste any more time. His eyes turned cold as the thunderous flames in his hand transformed into a saber and slashed downward. Yang Taitian and the rest were scared out of their wits, especially Yang Taitian, who couldn't help but shriek, Qin Nan, you can't kill us. If you kill me, my father will never let you off. Furthermore, there was a rule in the Qinglong sacred area that no one was allowed to kill. If you want to kill someone, no one will let you go. Die. Qin Nan's eyes flashed with a cold light. Killing is not allowed? He had a background? Then why did each and every one of you dare to kill him before? Boom. In this moment of life and death, Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, Shui Wuji, and the rest unleashed their auras while unleashing their martial spirits, preparing to resist. Things are different now. Even if all of you work together, you'll still die. Qin Nan uttered a thunderous roar as he summoned his nine-dragon golden-lined nascent soul. 10 mystical rays flickered behind him as the divine battle spirit emerged from the ground. Suppress. The divine battle spirit took a step forward, causing all the martial spirits to tremble in fear. Suppress. The nine-dragon golden-lined nascent soul emitted the thunder of the sky and the flames of the phoenix, suppressing the auras of Yang Taitian and the others like a giant mountain. Slash. Qin Nan's aura skyrocketed as he slashed downward with the saber in his hand. The 9 geniuses stood no chance against him as they were instantly killed, causing blood to splatter everywhere. How powerful! The eyes of Lei Bao, Hua Ba, and the crowd of beasts flickered with astonishment. Both the 9-dragon golden-line nascent soul and the 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit were something they had never seen before. As such, they were even more confident that this Qin Nan, who possessed the chaos qi and such an outstanding strength, would surely have an extraordinary future. Especially after Qin Nan entered the upper district, he would encounter more beasts, which would surely stir a great chaos. However, at that instant in the Qinglong sacred area, as I thought, this old man won't live for long. Yang Fengzhu's eyes flickered with excitement as he checked the divine sense transmitted to him. He immediately took out his sound-conducting badge and transmitted his voice to the peak leaders. Since the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was on the verge of death, and the rare occurrence of the Ocean of Death, it was time for him to bring forward his plans. At that instant, the connection in his heart was suddenly severed. Yang Fengzhu was startled for a period of over 10 breaths, before his face was filled with rage as he uttered a roar, "Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch! How dare you kill my son? I'm not done with you!" The roar shook the entire Qinglong sacred area, causing countless envoys and custodians to wear blank expressions on their faces. Following this, a series of furious roars echoed in the heavens and earth. Yang Fengzhu, activate the Qinglong mystical ground in advance. Peak leader Han of the 9th peak arrived with a hint of anger. All peak leaders, come here at once and activate the mystical ground. Yang Fengzhu became enraged as he uttered a roar that echoed throughout the entire Qinglong sacred area. The two instantly teamed up and took out their peak leader badges, which emitted a blinding glow, causing the entrance of the Qinglong mystical ground to appear once again. At that instant, the entire Qinglong sacred area shuddered violently. What's going on? Why are Yang Fengzhu and peak leader Han going crazy? Look, the 4 vice peak leaders are here too. Gasp! Peak leader Tsaomu, the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th peak leaders are here too. F***K. As the figures continued to arrive, the crowd of the Qinglong sacred area became restless. Just a moment ago, the rare occurrence of the Ocean of Death had caused so many peak leaders to team up to activate the Qinglong mystical ground. What exactly was going on? Was the entire Qinglong sacred area about to experience a great change? Bang! 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 Under the crowd's gaze, a total of 10 peak leaders led by Yang Fengzhu and peak leader Han arrived. Each of them took out their peak leader badges and activated the Qinglong mystical ground. Meanwhile, in the Qinglong mystical ground, a series of explosions took place in the air, causing every living being in the mystical ground to tremble. Shit, someone is trying to forcefully activate the Qinglong mystical ground. Lei Bao and Hua Ba frowned slightly as they became aware of something. Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and the others were startled. Forcefully activating the Qinglong mystical ground? Qin Nan swiftly reacted. It was highly possible that he was the one who had slain Yang Fengzhu and his crew, causing them to become enraged. At that instant, following a loud explosion, the space above the Qinglong mystical ground began to crumble, revealing a giant hole. On the other side of the hole, Yang Fengzhu, peak leader Han, and the rest of the peak leaders glanced toward the hole with thunderous gazes. Their gazes soon landed onto Qin Nan's figure. Qin Nan, you little b asterisk 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 d, prepare to die. Chapter 432. Genius Remembers Love. Go little in 1 second? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 434. Impossible. The arrival of 10 martial highnesses at the same time was enough to cause the entire place to tremble. Love. Go little. Sage could read the full article -79. Even a group of ferocious beasts like Lei Bao, Huaba, and the others were extremely weak at that instant, not to mention facing the attacks of 2 peak leaders at the same time. As for Qin Nan and the others, they were like a grain of sand in an ocean of sand, minuscule like ant. Stop it! At that instant, a loud roar echoed throughout the Qinglong sacred area. It was as if everything in the surroundings had come to a standstill. Even the figures of the 2 authorities, Yang Fengzhu and Peak Leader Han, stiffened, unable to move. Shush! A figure appeared above the 10 peak leaders, who turned out to be the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon waved his hand, causing Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and the others to land on the 16th peak, causing the entire Qinglong mystical ground to be fully opened. The custodians who were busy fighting in the mystical ground were dragged out before they could react. What's going on? What's going on? The custodians wore blank expressions on their faces. When they saw the 10 peak leaders and the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon in the air, their expressions changed tremendously, causing the words they were about to say to be stuck in their throat. Although they had no idea what was going on, the arrival of the Sacred Lord and the peak leaders was definitely something serious. At that instant, the entire Qinglong sacred area was astounded, as countless disciples and envoys glanced toward the 16th peak. They were eager to know why the 10 peak leaders had suddenly decided to open the Qinglong mystical ground, and what exactly was going on. Why are the 10 of you opening the Qinglong mystical ground without permission? The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon lowered his gaze and glanced at Yang Fengzhu and Peak Leader Han before he snapped, "You 2 are martial highnesses, and you dare to attack a disciple? How disgraceful!" As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Holy Master! Yang Fengzhu stood in the air and looked down at Qin Nan. His hair danced wildly in the wind as he screamed, "Qin Nan is too audacious. He violated the sect rules and killed my son. How can I not do anything? My son was also killed by him." Peak Leader Han stepped forward with a murderous look on his face. "You even killed my son! My son was killed too." The vice peak leaders of the various mountains stepped forward with ferocious looks on their faces. The disciples of the Qinglong sacred area were dumbfounded. Was Qin Nan crazy? He actually killed all of these people? Ha! At that instant, a loud laugh could be heard coming from the 16th mountain peak. The crowd immediately glanced toward the source of the laughter, and discovered that the one laughing was none other than Qin Nan. Qin Nan raised his head after laughing out loud. His robe flapped wildly as he stared at Yang Fengzhu, Peak Leader Han, and the others without showing any sign of fear, before he snapped, "So what if I've killed them? In the Qinglong mystical ground, I had no conflict with Yang Taitian, Shui Wuji, Han Fei, Xiao Hong, and the others, but they kept trying to kill me. In the end, they even summoned the divine sense of Yang Fengzhu and the city lord of the Slaughter City to lure 3 icy fanged tigers to kill me. Under such circumstances, what's wrong with me killing them?" Every word was like a clap of thunder, resounding in the air. The custodians, the envoys, and the disciples could feel their hearts shuddering. Yang Fengzhu snapped, "Asshole, stop slandering me." "Slandering me?" Princess Miao Miao stepped forward and let out a hollow laugh. "Old prick, don't be so shameless. I happen to have a memory crystal here. Let's see if you're slandering me or not." She flicked her finger and fired a crystal, which emitted a light screen, displaying the events that had taken place at the bloodthirsty lake. Meanwhile, on the 16th mountain, every disciple of the Qinglong sacred area fell silent after seeing the scene displayed on the screen. This Yang Taitian, Xiao Hong, and Xue Wuji were too ruthless. They were trying to kill Qin Nan. Under such circumstances, there was nothing wrong with Qin Nan summoning the beasts with his own strength to turn the tables around and kill them all. Did that mean they were allowed to target Qin Nan, but Qin Nan was not allowed to retaliate? That was not how it worked. Furthermore, the envoys, custodians, and disciples were aware of something strange. Why was Yang Taitian able to summon Yang Fengzhu's will? Why was the second son of the Xiao clan here? Why was Xue Wuji able to summon the icy fanged tiger? This was most likely a trap designed to kill Qin Nan. Ridiculous! Yang Fengzhu uttered a roar all of a sudden. It was just a normal duel between you and Yang Taitian, and you even managed to resolve the danger in the end. Why must you kill them? In my opinion, our Qinglong sacred area should sentence Qin Nan to death. Otherwise, it would be hard to prove the fairness of our Qinglong sacred area. I think Yang Fengzhu is being reasonable. Qin Nan is too cruel. It's better to get rid of someone like him. In my opinion, a peerless genius like him is the same as Tang Qingshan in the past. They are both addicted to killing and should be eliminated. The peak leaders of Tsamu Peak, the 4th Peak, the 5th Peak, and the others spoke at the same time, suggesting Qin Nan to be sentenced to death. The disciples of the Qinglong sacred area frowned their eyebrows. What was going on? Qin Nan had not done anything wrong, but the peak leaders still wanted to kill Qin Nan. Could it be? Everyone was shocked. Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, and the others wore furious looks on their faces. From the looks of it, Yang Fengzhu had joined forces with the other 9 peak leaders to target Qin Nan. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. Now that the Duanmu Mountain Lord and peak leader Zhang have yet to show themselves, and Yang Fengzhu is trying to kill me in such a blatant manner, it seems like something unexpected has taken place in the outside world while I was at the Qinglong mystical ground. Qin Nan's mind rapidly pondered. However, the current situation was no longer within his control. It all depended on the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon remained expressionless after hearing the cries of the 10 peak leaders. After a while, he slowly spoke, "Peak leaders, please calm down for now. Although Qin Nan did kill your sons, he was only trying to protect himself. I've decided to forget about it. From today onward, no one is allowed to mention it again." Toward the end, Sacred Leader Qinglong's tone turned stern all of a sudden, as his voice echoed in the entire Qinglong sacred area like the chime of a godly bell, causing everyone's hearts to shudder violently. Apart from Yang Fengzhu and Peak Leader Han, the eyes of the other 8 peak leaders flickered, but they remained silent. The people of the Qinglong sacred area let out sighs of relief. It seemed like the farce was coming to an end. Chapter 433. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? Sagnet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 435. The Wrath of the Sacred Leader. The roar was extremely shocking in the entire Qinglong sacred area. The Sacred Leader was a martial sacred, one of the strongest experts in the lower district. There were only 2 of them. Previously, in the Qinglong sacred area, as long as the Sacred Leader spoke, everything would be settled. Even the peak leaders were not allowed to oppose his decision. However, today, Yang Fengzhu had spoken in person to oppose the decision of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. At this moment, not only were the disciples stunned, even Qin Nan was stunned. For more information, visit www. Where did Yang Fengzhu get his confidence from to challenge the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon? The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon did not become enraged, but wore a calm expression as he calmly said, "Why not? Qin Nan, that son of a bitch, daring to kill my son. He deserves to die 1,000 times over." Yang Fengzhu stared straight into the eyes of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and snapped, "If you don't execute him, I will not forgive him. Besides, I believe that I'm not the only one who is not convinced. The other peak leaders and the other disciples are not convinced by your decision either." After saying this, Yang Fengzhu transmitted a message through the sound-conducting badge. The eyes of the other 9 peak leaders flickered as they communicated with one another with their divine sense. After a brief moment of communication, they immediately came to a decision. "That's right, he must be executed. Sacred leader, how can we calm the crowd if we don't execute him?" "I support Yang Fengzhu." The 9 peak leaders spoke and sided with Yang Fengzhu. Furthermore, the 4 vice peak leaders sided with Yang Fengzhu too. Meanwhile, piercing sounds could be heard all of a sudden. "Love go little saith one after another." The auras of the silhouettes were extremely powerful, continuous, and extremely tyrannical. "That's the first vice peak master of Duanmu Mountain, Peak Master Murong. Isn't that Hall Master Jean from Tsamu Peak? Holy sh*t, even the 2 vice peak masters of Tianxian Peak are here." Countless envoys and disciples of the Qinglong sacred area were dumbfounded seeing this. Now, a total of 20 vice peak leaders had arrived. Everyone knew that in the entire Qinglong sacred area, there were only 32 vice peak leaders in total, and almost half of them were here. "I support Yang Fengzhu. Execute Qin Nan and uphold justice. Qin Nan must die. If Qin Nan doesn't die, how is the Qinglong sacred area going to be fair?" When the 20 deputy peak masters arrived, they all stood behind Yang Fengzhu in unison. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, a few more sonic booms rang out. There were 5 young men and 2 women. All of them were expressionless, but their auras were powerful. "Aren't they the prospective saints, Li Tao, Yi Gu, and Wan Changyan? Gasp and Dao Pali, Long Shuang, Long Xian, and Lu Jin. Why are they all here?" The envoys, custodians, and disciples of the Qinglong sacred area were dumbfounded. Love Go Xiao Se, Wu in the Qinglong sacred area, the disciples were categorized into 3 ranks: disciples, custodians, and envoys. However, above them, there was another type of disciples, known as the prospective saints. The prospective saints referred to the peerless geniuses of the sacred area, who had a chance to become the saint and inherit the Qinglong sacred area. In other words, the future of the 2 sacred areas was mostly in the hands of these prospective saints. And now they were all here. "We support Yang Fengzhu. Qin Nan has done unfairly, he must be executed." "That's right, he must be executed." After arriving, the 7 prospective saints spoke simultaneously, siding with Yang Fengzhu. The words served as a shocking thunder in the hearts of the disciples. 10 peak leaders, 20 vice peak leaders, 7 prospective saints. These people were all here to oppose the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, and to execute Qin Nan? The disciples of the Qinglong sacred area were not stupid. They could easily tell that a great storm was about to take place in the Qinglong sacred area. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's expression remained calm. As he was about to speak, a yell could be heard all of a sudden. "Me too." A white-shirted young man could be seen walking toward them in midair from a distance away. His figure emitted a powerful suppression of the martial dominator realm, causing the crowd to glance at him. His appearance served as a great explosion in the hearts of the disciples of the Qinglong sacred area. Zhou Xian, the saint of the Qinglong sacred area, the future sacred leader of the Qinglong sacred area. "Sacred leader, I don't agree with your decision." Zhou Tong brought his fists together toward the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and said in a calm tone, "In my opinion, Qin Nan should be punished according to the rules of the sect since he has killed the other disciples. If he doesn't, I, as the saint, will not be convinced." After hearing the words, countless disciples inhaled deeply. What a big deal! 10 peak leaders, 20 vice peak leaders, the saints, and the 7 prospective saints had joined hands just to execute Qin Nan. At that instant, the faces of Princess Miao Miao and the others changed slightly after seeing this. They did not expect Yang Fengzhu to go this far just to kill Qin Nan. As for Qin Nan, his eyes turned colder. "Are you threatening me?" The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at the peak leaders, vice peak leaders, prospective saints, and spoke in a calm tone. Apart from Yang Fengzhu, the eyes of these people flickered slightly, revealing a hint of hesitation. However, upon thinking about the upcoming situation, the hesitation in their eyes dissipated as they became firm. "I wouldn't dare." Yang Fengzhu showed no sign of fear facing the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon, as he raised his voice and said in a firm tone, "I'm just trying to say that Qin Nan is a peerless genius. His crime of killing a disciple is unforgivable. If you insist on letting him go, you're being biased. Therefore, if you don't execute Qin Nan, I, Yang Qihai, will no longer be a disciple of the Qinglong sacred area. I support Yang Fengzhu. If you don't execute Qin Nan, I will no longer be a disciple of the Qinglong sacred area. I support Yang Fengzhu. Qin Nan must be executed. Otherwise, I will leave the Qinglong sacred area too. I support Yang Fengzhu. Execute Qin Nan must die. Otherwise, it's meaningless for me to stay here. I support Yang Fengzhu." At that instant, a shocking scene took place on the 16th mountain of the Qinglong sacred area. In order to execute a disciple, 10 peak leaders, 20 vice peak leaders, 1 saint, and 7 prospective saints had gathered together with a firm attitude. The envoys, custodians, and disciples of the Qinglong sacred area were dumbfounded. The same thought popped up in their minds at the same time. Coercing. Yang Fengzhu and his crew were trying to coerce the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. At that instant, they instinctively glanced toward Qin Nan. In their opinion, Qin Nan was not in the wrong, but since these people had gathered together and insisted on executing Qin Nan, even if Qin Nan was not guilty, he would still have to die. These people represented the top forces of the Qinglong sacred area, the pillars of the younger generation. If they were to leave the Qinglong sacred area, it would result in a great loss to the sacred area. They would not be able to recover for at least 100 years. Anyone would choose to execute Qin Nan under such circumstances. "You all," at that instant, the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon slowly spoke. The entire place fell silent as everyone glanced toward the sacred leader. They were eager to know what decision the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon would make. It was as if time had come to a standstill at that instant. Every breath felt extremely long, as if a century had passed. The eyes of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon glistened as he uttered a thunderous roar. How bold! The entire Qinglong sacred area was immersed in an uproar. The roars of the 16 mountains shook the heavens and earth. The sacred leader was enraged. Chapter 434. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 436. The birthday celebration is coming. Yang Fengzhu's eyes flickered with a hint of pride. Cotton candy. That's fast. His plan was flawless. If the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon did not execute Qin Nan, they would have a legitimate reason to betray the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. However, if Qin Nan was executed, their journey to the Ocean of Death would no longer be a threat to them. Now, Yang Fengzhu was 70% confident that the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon would execute Qin Nan. As for his son, if one died, he could just have another one. However, when the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon became enraged all of a sudden, his expression stiffened. In addition to him, the faces of the peak leaders, the vice peak leaders, the saints, and the prospective saints stiffened too, as their eyes were filled with terror. Before the aura of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon, They felt like mere ants facing a giant. It was as if the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's figure had transformed into the only existence between the heavens and earth, who glanced down at Yang Fengzhu and the others and snapped, "You people of the Qinglong sacred area dare to team up and threaten me in public. How bold of you! It doesn't matter if you've left the sect or not, the Qinglong sacred area will not execute Qin Nan today. Besides, Qin Nan is not guilty of his actions, and has brought justice to the world. The Qinglong sacred area will reward him greatly." The words penetrated deep into the hearts of the crowd. The custodians, envoys, and disciples of the Qinglong sacred area could feel their hearts exploding. They did not expect the sacred Lord Blue Dragon to go this far for Qin Nan's sake. Reward him instead of punishment? Yang Fengzhu and the others were startled. They did not expect this to be the outcome. On the training field, Qin Nan's expression froze as a warm current flowed through his heart. Since he had joined the Qinglong sacred area, he had received the love and respect of Tang Qinshan, the Duanmu mountain lord and peak leader Zhang. Although this sacred Lord Blue Dragon was extremely mysterious, and there were still many questions that he had yet to unravel, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was still protecting him during crucial moments. For him, they had given up on 10 peak masters, 20 vice peak masters, holy princes, and 7 prospective holy princes. If it were any other sect or power, who could do it? Very well then, Holy Lord. Since you insist on going your own way, then from now on, I am no longer a man of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Yang Fengzhu shouted. I'm no longer a member of the Qinglong sacred area. From today onward, I have nothing to do with the Qinglong sacred area. What's there to miss about such a sect? The peak masters, vice peak masters, and prospective holy princes spoke one after another. It was the first time in the history of the Qinglong sacred area that such a huge betrayal had happened. The envoys, custodians, and disciples could feel their hearts shuddering. They could not imagine what would happen to the Qinglong sacred area after this incident. People of the Qinglong sacred area, the sacred lord is being unreasonable in order to protect the geniuses. There's no point in staying in such a sect anymore. I've decided to join the Feiyang sacred area. If you're planning to leave, feel free to come with me. Yang Fengzhu turned around facing the entire Qinglong sacred area and uttered a roar, which entered everyone's hearts. The envoys, custodians, and disciples were startled, before they shook their heads. In their opinion, Qin Nan had done nothing wrong, thus they would not feel that he was being unreasonable. Furthermore, the Qinglong sacred area had been treating them well, thus it was impossible for them to leave. I believe you guys are still unaware of something? Yang Fengzhu wore a calm grin on his face after seeing that no one was moved by his words. The sacred lord of our Qinglong sacred area is dying soon. Once the sacred lord dies, our Qinglong sacred area will surely be devoured by the Feiyang sacred area. Once these words were spoken, it was no less than a heaven-shaking explosion. The sacred lord is dying? How was that possible? Everyone knew that the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had only officially taken over as the sacred lord of the Qinglong sacred area 300 years ago. It was impossible for him to die so soon. Qin Nan's expression changed greatly as he glanced toward the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and discovered a calm expression on his face. I know you don't believe me, but I do have a piece of artifact here that will allow you to witness it clearly. Yang Fengzhu uttered a roar all of a sudden. Heaven-illuminating godly mirror, reveal the truth. A brilliant glow was fired above Yang Fengzhu's head, which transformed into an ancient godly mirror. The godly mirror emitted a beam of light onto the figure of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Whoosh! The appearance of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon underwent a tremendous change at that instant. His black hair instantly turned white while his face was filled with wrinkles. His powerful aura was encapsulated by a deathly aura, as if he had turned into an old man at the end of his life. In addition to that, the 16 mountains of the Qinglong sacred area experienced a tremendous change. The aura of each mountain began to drop rapidly, while countless trees and flowers began to wither rapidly. If one were to glance downward from above, they would discover that the 16 mountains, which resembled a long dragon, were now filled with a deathly aura. How could this be? The sacred leader is really going to die. The faces of the envoys, custodians, and disciples turned pale white. What did it mean if the sacred leader were to die? It meant that once the sacred Lord Blue Dragon fell, the Qinglong sacred area would be targeted by the Feiyang sacred area, and even the factions of the upper district would set their eyes on it. A sacred area without a martial sacred realm expert would not live up to its name. A great explosion took place in Qin Nan's mind. This mysterious sacred Lord Blue Dragon, this cunning old man, the sacred leader who had always been protecting him, was going to die. At that instant, Qin Nan finally came to a realization. The reason why Yang Fengzhu and his crew dared to challenge the sacred Lord Blue Dragon so blatantly was because the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's days were numbered. Everyone, do you still plan to stay at the Qinglong sacred area under such circumstances? Yang Fengzhu uttered a roar. The peak leaders, vice peak leaders, prospective saints, and Saint Zhou Xian behind Yang Fengzhu wore complicated looks in their eyes. When they first joined the Qinglong sacred area, they had never thought that they would fall out with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon one day. Although the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had treated them well, it was only natural for humans to strive for greater heights. They still had an unlimited lifespan, and could still head to the eastern continent of the upper district. Therefore, they were not willing to stay at the Qinglong sacred area any longer. Otherwise, it was only a matter of time before they were devoured by the other factions. At that instant, many of the envoys, custodians, and disciples began to have doubts. What was fair and what was unfair? What was their relationship? As a matter of fact, in the end, it was all because of their own benefits. At that instant, Zhou Xian stepped forward and said in a blasting tone, "Don't worry, we've already discussed with the Feiyang sacred area. If you are willing to leave the Qinglong sacred area with us, they will establish a Qinglong peak for us at the Feiyang sacred area. The benefits will remain the same." The 10 peak leaders began to persuade the crowd as well. "I'll leave. There's no point in staying at the Qinglong sacred area." "I'll leave too, Sai." The envoys, custodians, and disciples spoke at the same time. Chapter 435. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 437. A 100-year conspiracy. On the 16th peak, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon stood firmly with a mysterious aura, as if his aura would dissipate at any second. Opposite him stood Yang Fengzhu with the peak leaders, vice peak leaders, prospective saints, envoys, custodians, etc., leading a huge formation. Please go here to read this book. Access. The eyes of the remaining disciples were filled with anger. Had these people forgotten how the Qinglong sacred area had nurtured them? The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's expression remained the same as he slowly scanned the crowd. Those who met his gaze subconsciously lowered their heads in shame. A moment later, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon spoke in a calm tone. "I'll spare your lives for the sake of our past relationship. Leave now." Despite the calm tone, it was filled with a hint of disappointment. "Humph, let's go." Yang Fengzhu let out a hollow laugh. Under his leadership, the huge group left in a grandiose manner. In less than an hour's time, the entire Qinglong sacred area was immersed in a lifeless atmosphere, with only a few people remaining. The crowd could not help but feel sorry for it. The eyes of the remaining disciples and Sima Kong's crew were spitting fire. In the past, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had nurtured these people, but now that the Qinglong sacred area was in danger, they were all leaving the sect? These people were nothing but beasts, completely heartless. It's all because of me. Qin Nan's heart turned heavy. Yang Fengzhu and his crew must have planned this for a long time, which was why they decided to betray the sacred area. In the end, Yang Fengzhu and his crew had decided to betray the sacred Lord Blue Dragon because of the conspiracy that had taken place a few hundred years ago at the Ocean of Death. It had nothing to do with Qin Nan, but Qin Nan was dragged into it too. Everyone! At that instant, sacred leader Qinglong uttered a sudden roar. Thank you all for staying at the Qinglong sacred area, but I can't afford to be a burden to you all. Therefore, the 4 peak leaders will lead you all out of the Qinglong sacred area. Don't worry, this is only a temporary departure. One day we will definitely make those who betrayed us regret it. Besides, I'm here to announce an important piece of news. From today onward, Qin Nan will be the saint of the Qinglong sacred area. If I were to die, he would inherit the Qinglong sacred area. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon spoke. Please go here to read a book. Many of the disciples present were in a daze. They had yet to recover from their shock. After a while, they quickly resisted. No, we won't leave the Qinglong sacred area. Yes, I will never leave. I was born as a member of the Qinglong sacred area, and I will die as a ghost of the Qinglong sacred area. I'm indebted to the Qinglong sacred area for nurturing me. Now that I'm facing a great calamity, how could I leave? The disciples all shouted loudly. Everyone, please be quiet. At that instant, 4 figures appeared, who turned out to be the other 4 peak leaders. One of the peak leaders said, "The sacred leader has mentioned that this is only a temporary departure. There's no need to rush. Now that the lower district is in chaos, the conspiracy is about to take place. If we continue to stay at the Qinglong sacred area, we will only be a burden to the sacred leader. Do you understand?" This loud shout shook everyone's brains to the point of buzzing. They had forgotten about one thing. Now that the Feiyang sacred area would surely soar into the sky, if they continued to stay at the Qinglong sacred area, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon would have to protect them. As the peak leader had mentioned, they would only be a burden to the sacred area if they continued to stay. At that instant, the disciples fell silent. "Follow me," the 4 peak leaders blurted out after seeing this. Before the huge group left, the 4 peak leaders glanced at Qin Nan and nodded their heads toward Qin Nan before leaving the place. Love Go Xiao Se Chu. After a while, the entire Qinglong sacred area fell into a dead silence, as if it was a desolate land. This, Sima Kong and his crew were stunned. They never thought that the once magnificent Qinglong sacred area would only be left with a few of them in just a few hours. "My 3 young friends, you should leave with them too." The sacred Lord Blue Dragon suddenly spoke and waved his hand. Before Sima Kong and his crew could respond, their figures were dragged away. At that instant, only the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, Princess Miao Miao, and Qin Nan were left in the Qinglong sacred area. A sense of silence and desolation could be felt. "Qin Nan, I've sacrificed a lot for your sake," the sacred Lord Blue Dragon said with a smile. "There's a change in the plan this time. The enemies will be making their move soon. Now that we're the only ones left in the Qinglong sacred area, we can only place our hopes on you. Feel free to go crazy." After saying this, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon stomped his foot, causing his lifeless figure to disappear. Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao were startled. They stared at the desolate 16th mountain and were left speechless for a moment. Why did the sacred Lord Blue Dragon leave just like that? Why did he only leave them here? Why did Yang Fengzhu and the others hunt him down? Why did they dare to betray him? Did the sacred Lord Blue Dragon not answer any of these questions? Qin Nan. At that instant a voice could be heard, which turned out to be Tang Qingshan. Tang Qingshan glanced at the enormous yet deadly silent Qinglong sacred area. His eyes flickered with an icy murderous intent. Qin Nan went straight to the point after seeing him and said in a deep tone, "Senior, I would like to know, what was the conspiracy at the Ocean of Death that caused Yang Fengzhu to be so determined to get rid of me?" In the past, Qin Nan would not ask too many questions, but that was no longer the case now. The Ocean of Death is one of the 10 great forbidden areas of the lower district. There is a Reaper's platform in the Ocean of Death. Only those with a sufficient martial skill talent are allowed to enter the Reaper's platform. Furthermore, the higher your martial skill talent is, the more precious the treasures you will obtain from the Reaper's platform. Tang Qingshan took a deep breath and said, "A few hundred years ago, my cultivation was only at the peak of the Imperial Exterminator realm. My junior sister and I accidentally entered the Ocean of Death. I almost met the requirement to enter the Reaper's platform and obtain the precious treasures. As a result, I was hunted by the Feiyang Sacred Area, the Trading Alliance, and the eastern continent of the Upper District. As a result, my junior sister died in the Ocean of Death and turned into an undead spirit." Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao fell silent as they recalled the scene where Tang Qingshan had knelt down in the past. The one who had turned into an undead spirit was no longer Tang Qingshan's junior sister, but Tang Qingshan's beloved daughter. Qin Nan asked after a slight hesitation, "Why are they trying to get rid of me?" "The Ocean of Death is only accessible once every 100 years. They would need to find someone with a great martial skill talent to ascend the Reaper's platform and obtain the precious treasures. Now that the Ocean of Death is accessible, they have already found someone, who is the eldest brother of one of the 3 sons of the Shao clan, Shao Zhonghuang." Tang Qingshan calmly said, "However, they did not expect you to appear out of nowhere during the selection of the 2 sacred areas, especially after learning that you possess a 10th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit, causing them to feel a sense of danger. They knew that you were the one chosen by the Duanmu Mountain Lord, thus they could not recruit you, thus they had no choice but to target you." Qin Nan immediately came to a realization after hearing this. No wonder this peak leader Yang was like a mad dog, chasing after him with all his might. It turned out that his existence had affected their plan. After all, they had spent 100 years planning this scheme. If Qin Nan were to ascend the Reaper's platform, their plan would be in vain. "This Shao Zhonghuang, is he very talented in martial skills?" Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly. He had never had any conflict with this eldest brother of the Shao clan. However, due to Jiang Bailan's relationship, Shao Zhonghuang had secretly sent Shao Feiping and Shao Hong to deal with him. "I'm not sure about his martial skill talent, but his martial spirit has reached the half-D rank." Tang Qingshan's eyes flickered with a hint of seriousness. "Half-D rank martial spirit?" Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao exchanged glances with one another. No wonder this Shao Zhonghuang was chosen to ascend the Reaper's platform. Everyone knew that the higher the rank of the martial spirit, the greater the martial skill talent, etc. A half-D rank martial spirit was unmatched in the entire lower district. "I have a drop of the blood of the divine god of battle. If I were to consume it, the rank of my martial spirit..." Qin Nan's eyes flickered with excitement. Due to the existence of the divine battle spirit, Qin Nan's martial skill talent was immeasurable. Not to mention that Shao Zhonghuang only possessed a half-D rank martial spirit. If Qin Nan were to consume the drop of the blood of the divine god of battle, he would surely surpass it. "Tang Qingshan, what's the treasure?" At that instant, Princess Miao Miao asked all of a sudden. "I'm not too sure about the treasure." Tang Qingshan's eyes flickered with a complicated expression as he blurted out, "However, these people are trying to acquire the treasure, and their ultimate goal is to deal with Master." "Deal with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon?" Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao were stunned. In other words, this plan that had been prepared for a few hundred years was meant to deal with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon? Tang Qingshan's face turned solemn, which was rare for him. What he said was shocking. 300 years ago, Master appeared out of nowhere from the ocean of death in the lower district. No one knew where he came from, but his cultivation was already at the martial sacred realm. Following this, he took over the Qinglong sacred area and was given the title of Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. According to my investigation, I found out that Sacred Leader Feiyang, Yang Fengzhu, and the Trading Alliance were secretly colluding with each other to target the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon under the instructions of an expert from the Upper District. I was quite confused when I heard the question, why would they target Master? Following this, I found out that according to the rumors, Master was actually a godly object from the ocean of death. Chapter 436. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 438. 6 months. Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao wore astounded expressions on their faces. Almost every novel you want to read is available. It's more stable than the other websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. The updates are so fast. They did not expect the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon to be the transformation of a godly object from the ocean of death. Furthermore, they did not expect the Feiyang Sacred Area and the Trading Alliance to collude with each other under the orders of the Upper District. As for the Imperial Exterminator and Qin Nan, they were unlucky enough to be involved in the conspiracy. Qin Nan. Tang Qingshan said in a dull tone, "The Sacred Lord is my master, and I'm indebted to him. If it's possible, I hope you can defeat Xiao Zhonghuang. Even if my master were to die, I will not allow him to become food for others. I hope that in the end, you can help me save Junior Sister and help Master, okay?" Qin Nan collected his thoughts and glanced at Tang Qingshan before slowly nodding his head. Since he had joined the Qinglong sacred area, the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon had been taking good care of him. He had told him that the Divine Battle Spirit required primary stones. He had left a drop of the blood of the Divine Battle Spirit for him at the Qinglong mystical ground. Despite being threatened by Yang Fengzhu and the others, the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon had chosen to protect him. Therefore, he would stand on the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon's side no matter what. Wait. Qin Nan suddenly realized something. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was the transformation of a godly object from the ocean of death, but how was he related to the Divine Battle Spirit? Why would he know so much about the Divine Battle Spirit, and why would he have a drop of its blood? Could it be that the actual form of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was something similar to the Divine Battle Spirit? Was he related to the Divine Battle Spirit in the past? That's strange. Qin Nan thought for a while and then shook his head. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and it updates faster. It's all text without advertisement. Now that the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was not willing to tell him the truth, there was no way he could learn the truth. As for the fact that he had reached the peak of the martial ancestor realm, it was just a lie. The ocean of death has undergone a rare change. It will open in half a year's time, Tang Qingshan said. In this half a year, try your best to improve your cultivation as quickly as possible. This was because the restriction of the Sea of Death was that anyone below Venerable One could enter. According to what I know, Xiao Zhonghuang is currently in the process of breaking through to the martial dominator realm. I believe there will be news soon. Only half a year left. A light flashed in Qin Nan's eyes. Be it suspicion or enemies, half a year later, at the Ocean of Death, all the heroes would gather, and a victor would be decided. All the mysteries would be completely revealed. I'll head to the Ocean of Death now to assist First Brother and Third Brother in finding out the reason behind the rare change. Tang Qingshan gave Qin Nan a thoughtful look. Qin Nan had become their last hope, and he believed that Qin Nan would amaze the world at the Ocean of Death in half a year's time. After he finished speaking, he didn't stay any longer. His figure flashed and disappeared. I'll go into seclusion now, Qin Nan said. He could not wait to refine the blood of the divine god of battle. A love go shall say ku, don't be in such a rush. Princess Miao Miao rolled her eyes and spread her arms, as if she were hugging the sky, perfectly displaying her perfect figure. Following this, she said with squinted eyes, Qin Nan, why are you so stupid? Those ungrateful bastards have betrayed the Qinglong sacred area, but they didn't have the time to take away some of their belongings. You're saying that? Qin Nan was startled. That's right, rob the 16 mountains. Princess Miao Miao wore an excited expression. Let's go, there's no time to lose. Princess Miao Miao reached out her hand and grabbed Qin Nan's arm, before rushing up the mountain in a hurry. Qin Nan was lost in his thoughts as he felt the gentle touch on his hand. Currently, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was the only one in the deepest part of the Qinglong sacred area. There was no one else on the 16 mountains. Princess Miao Miao was like a whirlwind, as she swept through the 16 mountains, leaving nothing behind as long as it was within her reach. 3,000 primary stones. Qin Nan's breathing intensified. Although they were unable to take most of the items, they still managed to loot a total of 3,000 primary stones. That being said, Princess Miao Miao had also looted a huge amount of elixirs, pill manuals, mystical weapons, etc. Useless. Princess Miao Miao rolled her eyes and said, I already have 4,000 primary stones on me. What? Qin Nan's face was filled with astonishment, before he recalled that Princess Miao Miao had looted over 60 mystical grounds previously. Are you in need of primary stones? Princess Miao Miao rolled her eyes. Yes, I need primary stones. Qin Nan said in a dull tone, these primary stones are extremely important to me. 3,000 primary stones. Plus 4,000 primary stones. And a drop of the blood of the divine god of battle. How powerful would the divine battle spirit be? The thought alone caused Qin Nan's heart to turn fiery. In half a year's time, he would be able to crush Xiao Zhonghuang, Zhou Xian, or any of the prospective saints. I can give them to you, but you have to do me a favor in 3 days' time. Princess Miao Miao straightened her face as she said in a low tone, Qin Nan, it's related to my future. I need your help. Qin Nan was startled when he saw the rare hint of pleading in her eyes. You're not willing? Princess Miao Miao became displeased. No, Qin Nan shook his head as a calm smile appeared on his face. He did not expect Princess Miao Miao's request to be so low. Just a favor? Not to mention 1, 3, or even 5, as long as she asked, it would not be a problem. When the news regarding the Qinglong sacred area was spread to the lower district, the entire lower district was astounded. 10 peak leaders including Yang Fengzhu led 20 vice peak leaders, 7 prospective saints, Saint Zhou Xian, and over 3,000 envoys, custodians, and disciples to join the Feiyang sacred area. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's time was almost up. He could only live for half a year at most. Among the geniuses of the Qinglong sacred area, only Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao were left. Gasp! That's too shocking. In just the blink of an eye, Qin Nan is the only genius left in the enormous sacred area. Not only that, there are only 2 peak leaders left. The once incomparably huge Holy Land has now withered to such a state. What did the Feiyang sacred area do to make so many people betray them? Don't you know? The sacred Lord Blue Dragon is going to die. Once he dies, the Qinglong sacred area will be destroyed. What if those people don't leave? Among the cultivators of the lower district, some let out sighs, some shook their heads, and some gloated over the misfortune of others. However, at that instant, another shocking piece of news was spread across the entire lower district. The Slaughter City, the Gambling City, and the Trading Alliance had announced that they would be joining forces with the Feiyang sacred area to form the Feiyang Alliance. The prospective saints of the Feiyang sacred area, the Qinglong sacred area, the 2 saints, and the saintess of the Trading Alliance had formed the Genius Alliance. Both the Feiyang Alliance and the Genius Alliance would provide Xiao Zhonghuang with their full support. Xiao Zhonghuang was in the process of ranking up to the martial dominator realm. Under the gaze of the crowd of the Feiyang Alliance, he displayed his martial spirit, which was not the half D rank as mentioned in the rumors, but a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. Chapter 437. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 439, No More Glory of the Pasta, First-Grade D-Ranked Martial Spirit. What kind of concept was that? Even in the entire lower district, he was considered to be the #1 existence, and no one could compare to him. Before this, Xiao Zhonghuang only possessed a half-step Earth-class martial spirit, but he was still unable to cause too much of a stir. After all, a half-step Earth-class martial spirit was not an Earth-class martial spirit. Who would have thought that the Feiyang sacred area had concealed the truth from the very beginning, and only announced it today? F***ck. Xiao Zhonghuang is too abnormal. Qin Nan can't compare to him at all. Qin Nan? Qin Nan has an 8th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. How can he be compared with Xiao Zhonghuang? TCH, you don't know this, do you? Qin Nan has a 10th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. But so what? Right now, Xiao Zhonghuang is the true #1 genius. How generous of the Feiyang sacred area. The Feiyang Alliance and the Genius Alliance are all here to support Xiao Zhonghuang. A first-grade D-ranked martial monarch would be considered a top-tier existence even in the upper district's eastern continent. Countless astonished voices could be heard across the lower district. Advertisement. -79XS in the Kanglan continent, martial prowess reigned supreme. The geniuses were ranked according to their martial spirits. Everyone knew that from today onwards, Xiao Zhonghuang's future achievements would be unparalleled. As the entire lower district was immersed in astonishment, another piece of news took place, causing the cultivators to lose their patience. Love go little saith Kunao that Xiao Zhonghuang had successfully become a martial emperor. The Feiyang Sacred Ground held a banquet and invited all the heroes in the world to witness the grand occasion. At that instant, countless experts began to make their way to the Feiyang Sacred Area. Due to the shocking change in the lower district, from today onward, the Feiyang Sacred Area would surely become the top sacred area of the lower district, while the Qinglong Sacred Area would disappear in the river of history. At this moment in the Feiyang Sacred Ground, unlike the Qinglong Sacred Area, the disciples of the Feiyang Sacred Area lived in a huge city. The entire city covered an area of 9,000 miles. It was huge and majestic, and the walls were crimson red. Looking from afar, there was an invisible sense of desolation that wreaked havoc in this world. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and it updates faster. It's all text without advertisement. The city was known as Feiyang City, and according to the rumors, it was a sacred weapon. Once it was activated, its power would be incredibly terrifying, capable of killing even a martial highness. Currently, at the center of Feiyang City there was a giant dojo. Around the dojo stood sacred leader Feiyang, the city lord of Slaughter City, Yang Fengzhu, and the peak leaders, followed by the vice peak leaders, saints, prospective saints, custodians, etc. The gazes of so many experts fell on the dojo at the same time. The center of the dojo was covered by a stormy cloud that was 899 zhang long. Countless thunderbolts could be seen descending from the cloud, resulting in a terrifying sight. Under the ferocious thunderbolts stood a young man wearing a black robe. His hair danced wildly, and behind him was a golden glow. Within the golden glow was a pitch-black ancient beast, emitting a mysterious aura and a terrifying suppression, causing those who glanced at it to feel terrified. This person was none other than the eldest brother of the Shao clan's third son, Xiao Zhonghuang. The martial spirit behind him was his first-grade D-ranked martial spirit, the curse martial spirit. Tribulation clouds disperse. Xiao Zhonghuang uttered a roar amid the thunderbolts, causing the tribulation clouds in the sky to disperse on their own as if they had encountered a terrifying presence, allowing the surroundings of the dojo to return to normal. A powerful aura of the martial dominator realm burst into the sky from his body, causing the expressions of the prospective saints and the two saints to change. Congratulations! Congratulations, junior brother Xiao! Ha ha ha, congrats! Junior brother Xiao is a dragon among men, to be able to disperse the tribulation clouds with a single sentence. Who among the geniuses could do the same? Countless voices of praise filled the heavens and the earth like waves. Sacred leader Feiyang Yang Fengzhu and the Slaughter City Lord wore calm grins on their faces. The reason why they had allowed Xiao Zhonghuang to overcome his tribulation in such a straightforward manner was to let the new members of the Trading Alliance and the Qinlong Sacred Area witness Xiao Zhonghuang's true strength. At that instant, several auras flew toward the dojo from Feiyang City. The eyes of sacred leader Feiyang and the others glistened. It seemed like the news had been spread to the public, attracting the attention of the rogue cultivators. That's Xiao Zhonghuang. How terrifying, didn't he just rank up to the martial dominator realm? Why do I feel like I'm facing a third-layer martial dominator realm cultivator? Gasp, this kid is extraordinary! As expected of a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit, his strength is already so terrifying after ranking up to the martial dominator realm. Those newly arrived rogue cultivators all turned pale with fright, and all of them were greatly shocked. Xiao Zhonghuang placed his hands behind him while his face was filled with a hint of pride. His gaze was like that of an imperious demon looking down on all living beings as he uttered a roar, "Today, I've ranked up to the martial dominator realm. Thank you all for coming. Now that our Feiyang Alliance and the Genius Alliance have been established, we will surely influence the situation of the lower district in the future. Be it the experts or the geniuses, from today onward, lend me a hand, and I'll complete the plan in 6 months' time." The words were uttered in an extraordinary manner, as if he was the emperor of this place, and the others were his servants. By the way, to the rogue cultivators from the lower district, I have to inform you that in 6 months' time, the ocean of death will be accessible. Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes were filled with a hint of disdain and murderous intent as a sudden thought crossed his mind. At the ocean of death, at the Reaper's platform, I'll have a duel with Qin Nan. I'll let the entire lower district witness how I'm going to become the top genius of the lower district. Sacred leader Feiyang and the others were astounded, as they did not expect the words to come, but they soon collected their thoughts. It was true that Xiao Zhonghuang was going to have a duel with Qin Nan in 6 months' time. However, Xiao Zhonghuang would surely win the duel. The rogue cultivators of the lower district were astounded once again. Xiao Zhonghuang was going to have a duel with Qin Nan at the Ocean of Death? That was a piece of shocking news. Everyone knew that both Xiao Zhonghuang and Qin Nan were peerless geniuses of the lower district, and it was rare for one to appear in 100 years. Now, in this era, both of them had appeared at the same time, and were going to have a duel with one another. Such a grand occasion would only happen once every 200 years. Following this, the entire Feiyang city was immersed in a grand feast, resulting in a lively atmosphere. The news regarding the duel between Xiao Zhonghuang and Qin Nan was spread to every corner of the lower district under the influence of certain people. What? The Ocean of Death will be accessible in 6 months' time? The two peerless geniuses are going to have a duel? Is there something wrong with this Qin Nan's brain? A duel with Xiao Zhonghuang? Isn't that the same as courting death? Yeah, Xiao Zhonghuang has a D-ranked martial spirit. Isn't the difference between him and Qin Nan like the difference between the heavens and earth? Qin Nan is going to lose for sure. Sigh, I don't understand. The Qinglong sacred area is no more, but Qin Nan is still there, and still wants to have a duel with Xiao Zhonghuang. Isn't that the same as courting death? Countless people in the lower district shook their heads. A few months ago, Qin Nan's appearance was like a brilliant meteor that had soared to the peak of the upper district, earning the respect of countless people. Now, Xiao Zhonghuang's appearance was like a blazing sun, shining brightly in all directions, causing Qin Nan's brilliance to become extremely dim. In this era, be it the prospective saints, the previous saints, or Qin Nan, it would be their misfortune if they were to stumble into Xiao Zhonghuang. This was because Xiao Zhonghuang was destined to be the strongest genius in this era. However, at that instant in the Luaha kingdom, a man in a black robe sat in a restaurant. When he heard the size of the crowd, he put down his wine cup, stood up, and walked out of the restaurant with a murderous look in his eyes. It seems like a 10th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit is not enough. I need to improve it further. A mere Xiao Zhonghuang dares to bully Qin Nan. Chapter 438. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 440. The cleansing of the godly blood. The chaos in the lower district had nothing to do with the Qinglong sacred area. Accessed. Qinglong sacred area. It was as if the entire sacred area had been separated from the rest of the world, leaving only Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao. Time to cultivate in seclusion. The two exchanged glances with one another, before heading deep into the Duanmu mountain at the same time. They found the palace and entered it. Qin Nan sat down with his legs crossed and took out all 7,000 primary stones from his storage ring. Let's refine these primary stones first, before refining the godly blood. Qin Nan mumbled to himself, as his hands began to move at a faster speed, shoving the primary stones into his mouth. 100, 300, 900. After devouring 3,000 chaos chi, Qin Nan now had 10 streams of chaos chi in his body. However, the divine battle spirit still showed no sign of showing any reaction. Keep devouring. Qin Nan clenched his teeth. He did not expect it to be this difficult for the divine battle spirit to rank up to the D rank. 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. After devouring all 7,000 primary stones, apart from the 23 streams of chaos chi in Qin Nan's body, the divine battle spirit showed no sign of ranking up. This caused a drop of cold sweat to appear on Qin Nan's forehead. The ranking up of the divine battle spirit was much more difficult than he had imagined. At this point, he had most likely devoured 8,000 primary stones, which was equivalent to 80 million contribution points in the Qinglong sacred area. At that instant, the copper mirror in Qin Nan's divine sense shuddered violently and absorbed the 8 streams of chaos chi without mercy, before falling silent once again. Qin Nan took a deep breath to calm his thoughts, before taking out the jade box from his storage bag. Inside the jade box, a drop of blood floated in midair while emitting an ancient, mysterious aura. War God's blood, I hope you can bring me a pleasant surprise, Qin Nan murmured. He then opened the jade box and swallowed the drop of blood while enduring the agitation of his blood. Full text reading boom. At that instant an ancient explosion took place in Qin Nan's mind, which almost shattered his mind. Qin Nan only saw a completely different scene in front of him. In the picture, a man whose body had penetrated the ancient times let out an earth-shattering roar. With a long saber in his hand, he pounced on the figures that blotted out the sky and started a terrifying massacre. In front of this man, it was as if all his enemies were ants. They couldn't even block a single attack from him. Fight, fight, fight. It was as if this man would never get tired. He would always hold his saber and fight. They fought from the horizon to the darkness, to the Milky Way, and to the other side of the world. In the end, the man was tired. He knelt on one knee and let out a whimper as if he was crying. Whoosh! The picture disappeared as Qin Nan's mind returned to his main body. Qin Nan was lost in his thoughts. He subconsciously reached out his hand and touched his face. 2 streams of tears were rolling down his cheeks. Bang! At that instant, a loud explosion pulled Qin Nan back from his thoughts. The drop of blood merged with Qin Nan's blood, causing it to boil vigorously and turn golden in color. A powerful aura was emitted from the blood, as if some kind of existence was about to be awakened. If someone were close to Qin Nan, they would see Qin Nan's body emitting a golden glow, like an imperious Buddha. Qin Nan suddenly discovered that the boiling blood flowed continuously in his body, forming 108 lines. These lines were incredibly obscure, which combined together to form an obscure pattern. The lines, were none other than the blood vessels. Previously, when Qin Nan merged with the left eye of the divine god of battle, it was only in its initial stage. Now, he had already formed a rough outline of it. Bang! 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 At that instant, a majestic and pure energy burst out from his bloodline. My nascent soul! Qin Nan was startled. The 9-dragon golden-lined nascent soul began to vibrate vigorously. Its tiny figure emitted countless golden rays, which transformed into golden lines that intertwined with one another. 10 dragons, 11 dragons, 12 dragons. It finally came to a stop when it reached 19 dragons. As the 19-dragon golden-lined nascent soul was formed, Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle, the blazing sun golden armor body technique, his saber intent, and the demonic art of heart-calming art began to experience tremendous changes, as if they had broken through the barriers and reached a new level. Previously, the blazing sun golden armor body technique and the demonic art of heart-calming art were incomplete. Now, these 2 martial skills were developing in an unknown direction. Qin Nan's figure transformed into the fiery phoenix flesh, which emitted a roar into the heavens with a single thought. His divine sense shrunk into the shape of a giant bell, which was carved with countless complicated runes, giving it an ancient and mystical appearance. Besides that, Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle experienced a shocking change too. The white of his left eye was no longer visible, as it had turned pitch black. Within the darkness, countless stars could be seen, as if it were an ancient starry sky. Furthermore, there was no longer an eyeball in the center of his eye. Instead, there was a flickering electric arc in the shape of a dragon. Although it looked ordinary, Qin Nan was able to unleash a terrifying sky thunder with a single movement. I didn't expect my strength to soar to such an extent. Qin Nan was astounded. Although his 19-dragon-lined golden nascent soul still possessed the aura of the peak martial emperor realm, his strength was comparable to a 3rd-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. This was one of his unique traits, as his strength was already this terrifying even before he had experienced the tribulation of the martial ancestor realm and the martial dominator realm. Buzz buzz buzz. Meanwhile, the divine battle spirit in his body began to vibrate vigorously all of a sudden. Before Qin Nan could collect his thoughts, the 10 green rays suddenly appeared behind him, as the Tenjong tall divine battle spirit emerged from the ground. Roar! The divine battle spirit raised its head all of a sudden and uttered a roar toward the sky. Its enormous figure suddenly grew rapidly, from 10 zhang to 30 zhang tall. From afar, it looked like a huge mountain, shrouding the sun and the sky. It's about to rank up. Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat. Bang! The 10 green rays behind the divine battle spirit were shattered into pieces as if they were struck by a huge hammer. A tiny golden glow was emitted all of a sudden, which became extremely blinding in the end. The suppression of a D-ranked martial spirit swept across the heavens and earth like a flood. First grade D-ranked. Qin Nan's face was filled with joy. However, that was not the end of it. Bang! 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 A series of explosions took place. First grade D-ranked. Second grade D-ranked. Third grade D-ranked. It wasn't until he reached Earth grade 5 that the golden light finally stopped exploding. At that instant, the divine battle spirit's figure was over 100 zhang tall. It stood in mid-air and stared into the sky, as if its eyes had come alive, filled with an imperious aura. Fifth grade D-ranked. Qin Nan's voice began to tremble slightly. However, at that instant, an icy voice suddenly exploded in his mind. The ability of the divine battle spirit has been awakened. Any martial spirit with the same level as the divine battle spirit will be suppressed, forced to submit, and lose its ability to resist. Chapter 439. A genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 441. Demon King's Valley, such an imperious ability. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Access. The divine battle spirit had never had any other abilities apart from leveling up and cultivating. The ability it had just awakened was able to suppress all martial spirits of the same level. That being said, it's quite strange. Why is this drop of blood able to help me rank up to the 5th grade D rank? Qin Nan's eyes were filled with doubts. Previously, when he merged with the left eye of the divine god of battle, his martial spirit had improved from the 1st grade Xian rank to the 7th grade Xian rank, which was only 6 grades higher. Now, the drop of blood had improved his martial spirit by another 6 grades. Most importantly, there was a huge difference between a D-ranked martial spirit and a Xian-ranked martial spirit, thus the amount of resources required to rank up was greater. Therefore, it was highly possible that this drop of blood was no ordinary drop of blood of the divine god of battle. The blood of the divine god of battle was left by the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. I'll have to find the answers to these doubts from him. Qin Nan shook his head and glanced into the sky before he mumbled, "Only a day has passed. There are still 2 days left. I'll continue to improve my nascent soul." Qin Nan immediately focused his attention on the Chaos Chi. After the Copper Mirror had devoured 8 streams of Chaos Chi, there were still 15 streams of Chaos Chi left. With these 15 streams of Chaos Chi, he would be able to improve the 19 dragon-headed nascent soul to the next level. That being said, Qin Nan did consider using the Chaos Chi to nurture Lei Bao, Hua Ba, and the others. However, he soon shook his head and gave up on the idea. Even if Lei Bao and Hua Ba were able to rank up to the Martial Highness realm, it would not make any difference to the battle in 6 months' time. Devour. Qin Nan directed the 15 streams of Chaos Chi into the 19 dragon-headed golden nascent soul. The nascent soul emitted a brilliant glow as its aura rose rapidly. Read the full article. After 2 days, the nascent soul's aura finally stopped rising. It spat out a large amount of golden mist, which turned into 3 golden dragon tattoos that coiled around the nascent soul. In the blink of an eye, Qin Nan's cultivation rose again. His current combat strength was equivalent to a LV5 Martial Royal Realm martial artist. Strange, I still have the aura of a peak martial king, but I still can't sense the heavenly lightning tribulation. Qin Nan raised his head. There was no joy in his eyes. Instead, he looked dignified. There must be something fishy going on. His strange nascent soul increased his cultivation base too quickly. It was unimpeded all the way, far surpassing the limit. Qin Nan. Princess Meow Meow's melodious voice rang out. She wore a calm smile on her face, as if she was in a good mood. However, when she saw Qin Nan, the smile froze on her face as her eyes were filled with astonishment. Your cultivation. Princess Meow Meow could feel that Qin Nan's figure was like a black hole, devouring the surroundings, resulting in a terrifying sight. What shocked her the most was that when she first met Qin Nan, he was only at the Xiantian realm, and now, His cultivation was even stronger than hers? 3 days have passed. What do you want me to do for you? Qin Nan let out a calm smile as he withdrew his aura. To love go shao say ku humph, who would have thought that your servant's cultivation would improve so quickly? Princess Miao Miao twisted her lips and said in an unpleasant tone, I'm going to rank up to the martial dominator realm, so I need you to protect me. Rank up to the martial dominator realm? Protect you? Qin Nan was startled. That's right, I'm different from you stupid humans. When I rank up to the martial dominator realm, I'll encounter my first natal tribulation. Princess Miao Miao became joyful after saying this. Once I successfully overcome the tribulation, I'll be able to recover significantly and rank up to the peak martial dominator realm. I won't have any problem facing the martial highness realm cultivators. What? Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. Following this, he recalled that Princess Miao Miao was a 9-spirited ascended ginseng. Before she was injured, she was already a powerful cultivator. It was reasonable for her cultivation to skyrocket after overcoming the natal tribulation. That being said, it's a great opportunity for you too. Aren't you practicing the art of thunder? Absorbing my natal lightning tribulation will also bring you endless benefits. Let me tell you, if it were anyone else, I wouldn't give them such a precious opportunity. Princess Miao Miao's face was filled with pride. Qin Nan ignored half of it and said, Sure, I'll be your protector. Come with me. Princess Miao Miao reached out her hand and dragged Qin Nan out of the Qinglong sacred area. Where are we going? Qin Nan glanced at Princess Miao Miao's hand and let out a cough before asking in a curious tone. The Demon King's Valley. Princess Miao Miao said, The Demon King's Valley is one of the top 10 forbidden areas of the lower district, ranked at the bottom. It's not too dangerous there, but deep inside the Demon King's Valley is a soul-sealing dojo, which is perfect for me to rank up to the martial dominator realm. I see Qin Nan had heard of the Demon King's Valley before. According to the rumors, the entire Demon King's Valley was formed by the fall of an ancient demon king, giving birth to countless demons, resulting in a dangerous environment. If an ordinary cultivator were to enter the valley, they would be demonized and lose their intelligence, turning into a demon for eternity. However, Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao did not expect that as they were leaving the Qinglong sacred area, 2 faint figures could be seen flickering in the air. These 2 figures were none other than the famous shadows of the trading alliance. Feiyang City, inside the First Genius Palace. Inside the palace, Xiao Zhonghuang sat at the leading position like an emperor, staring coldly at the crowd before him as he uttered a roar. Jiang Bailan, now that I've obtained the support of the experts, I'll be a disciple of the Eastern continent in the future. No one in the lower district is comparable to my identity, but you still won't marry me under such circumstances? Brother Xiao, as long as Qin Nan is still alive, Jiang Bailan has no intention of marrying you. Jiang Bailan slightly lowered her gaze. The Feiyang Sacred Area had formed the Feiyang Alliance and the Genius Alliance to support Xiao Zhonghuang. Even though she was the saintess of the Trading Alliance, her status was still insignificant in front of this man. Despite that, she still had her determination. Qin Nan, Qin Nan, Qin Nan again. Green veins popped out on Xiao Zhonghuang's forehead as he uttered a roar like a demon. My third brother was turned into something worse than an animal because of him, and my second brother died because of him, and you still dare to mention him to me? Although I'm not too bothered by this piece of trash Qin Nan, I will surely beat him to death in the duel in half a year's time. However, from today onward, I'll be going into seclusion. Where would I find the time to deal with that piece of trash? Jiang Bailan's heart shuddered after hearing the roar, as a hint of confusion could be seen on her charming face. She had always claimed that she was going to kill Qin Nan, but even if Qin Nan was killed, would she really be willing to marry Xiao Zhonghuang? It was true that Xiao Zhonghuang was a peerless genius, but there was always a resistance in her heart. What about me? Tell me, have you fallen in love with someone else? Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes emitted a murderous intent. Fallen in love with someone else? Jiang Bailan subconsciously wanted to shake her head. However, the image of him rejecting her, resisting her and defeating her time and time again appeared in her mind. Such a scene caused her to break out in a cold sweat. At that instant, the sound-conducting badge on her waist suddenly emitted a glow. Jiang Bailan picked up the badge in a panic and took a closer look, before she blurted out in astonishment, "Qin Nan has left the Qinglong sacred area? What?" Xiao Zhonghuang was slightly startled, before his eyes squinted as a cruel grin appeared on his face. "Oh Qin Nan! Oh Qin Nan! Why don't you just hide in the Qinglong sacred area and ask that old man to protect you?" Chapter 440. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 442. Murderous intent rises. The entire lower district was immersed in an uproar. Due to Xiao Zhonghuang's announcement, the cultivators of the lower district were anticipating the opening of the Ocean of Death in 6 months' time. Although they all believed that Qin Nan would lose, they also wanted to see with their own eyes how a peerless genius would be defeated. As the center of the storm, Qin Nan was completely oblivious to all of this. He was now being dragged by Princess Miao Miao to the Demon King's Valley. "Hey, listen carefully. Don't be careless in front of this princess." Princess Miao Miao harumphed. "It's very important for me to rank up to the martial dominator realm. If you don't help me properly, I'll teach you a lesson." Qin Nan felt a headache coming on. Along the way, Princess Miao Miao had repeated the same sentence at least 300 times over the 300 li distance. Although he was a little annoyed, Qin Nan also knew that Princess Miao Miao, who had always been noble and domineering, was really nervous this time. It seems like becoming a martial emperor is very important to her, Qin Nan thought to himself. He couldn't help but look at the side of Princess Miao Miao's face. When he looked at her, he suddenly realized that he had never taken a good look at her. Unknowingly, she had grown up quickly from a 13-year-old girl. She was tall and slender, with fair skin and charming facial features. As he watched, Qin Nan actually became absent-minded. "You bastard, what are you looking at?" Princess Miao Miao's pretty face was a little hot. She had noticed the look in Qin Nan's eyes from the beginning, but she was a little proud in her heart, so she didn't point it out, but she didn't expect that he would refuse to look back. Qin Nan came back to his senses and was slightly shocked. What was going on? "If you dare to look again, I'll beat you up." Princess Miao Miao snorted and waved her fist threateningly. "Is that so?" Qin Nan couldn't help but laugh and said, "The current you doesn't seem to be able to defeat me, right?" "Qin Nan." Princess Miao Miao's beautiful eyes narrowed. She extended her 2 claws and greeted Qin Nan. He used to be so well-behaved, but now he actually dared to talk back? She could tolerate it, but the princess couldn't. The two of them played around for a while and arrived at the Demon King's Valley. In the distance, 2 mountains rose from the ground. They were shrouded in a black glow, and a whistling sound could be heard from within. It was a sight that sent chills down one's spine. Between the 2 mountains was an entrance. It was pitch black, and it was impossible to see what was inside. However, it was possible to enter through the entrance. As one of the 10 great forbidden grounds of the lower province, even if it was ranked at the bottom, apart from some special occasions, there would be almost no cultivators in the Demon King's Valley throughout the year. Only a few experts would come here for the sake of their cultivation technique. "Let's go." Princess Miao Miao's aura changed tremendously, as if she had transformed into a ferocious female general. She led the way into the valley, followed by Qin Nan. As soon as the two entered the valley, countless roars could be heard coming from all directions. Countless skeletons, phantoms, and other demonic creatures appeared while uttering eerie laughter. They stared at the two as if they were looking at delicious food. "Piss off!" Qin Nan uttered a roar as the giant bell in his divine sense was summoned. It emitted a tremendous amount of qi as it rang the bell. Dang! The demonic creatures within 3 li let out cries of agony as their figures were shattered into pieces by an invisible force. Qin Nan was no longer the same as before. His cultivation was equivalent to the 5th layer martial dominator realm. Demonic creatures of this level could not inflict any damage to him. The two of them moved forward rapidly. Wherever they passed, all kinds of demonic creatures were killed. Not long after, a strange sight took place around the two. There was no sign of demonic qi within 1 li, as if the place was a pure land. "The soul sealing dojo is over there," Princess Miao Miao suddenly spoke. Qin Nan immediately raised his head and saw an ancient dojo stained with blood at the center of the Demon King's Valley. The dojo was not huge, only covering an area of 3 li. On the dojo were pitch-black rotten corpses with powerful auras, which faintly emitted the auras of the martial ancestor realm. It was obvious that they were once martial ancestor realm experts when they were still alive. Qin Nan's left eye flickered thunderously. He could clearly see that the ordinary-looking dojo contained a powerful sealing force. Even though his cultivation had reached the martial dominator realm, he could still feel his heart skipping a beat. "Qin Nan, I'm going to the soul-sealing dojo. With the help of the sealing force, a powerful demon will appear soon. Protect me." Princess Miao Miao wore a stern expression as she landed on the soul-sealing dojo with a kick. 9. Revolution, Light, Spirit, Miao, Qing, Tian. Princess Miao Miao uttered a roar as she performed a hand seal. As she uttered the last word, her pitch-black hair danced wildly in the wind as a terrifying glow was emitted, lighting up the entire Demon King's Valley. At that instant, she was no longer the imperious and greedy Miao Miao, but a real princess of a kingdom with a noble aura. Primary force, awaken at once. Princess Miao Miao uttered a roar. Her aura skyrocketed rapidly, as if an ancient presence had been awakened. Within 3 li of her, countless glowing flowers, herbs, etc. blossomed, causing the Demon King's Valley to turn into a mystical realm. Such a powerful force! Qin Nan's eyes widened. Princess Miao Miao's aura completely surpassed his current cultivation. Roar, roar, roar. At that instant, a series of shocking roars could be heard coming from the Demon King's Valley, as countless pitch-black humans emitting powerful demonic auras charged toward Princess Miao Miao's figure with their bloodshot eyes. These figures were the cultivators who had been forcibly demonized after entering the Demon King's Valley. "Don't you dare!" Qin Nan's left eye emitted a tremendous thunderbolt, which swept the surroundings like the arrival of the god of thunder. Meanwhile, Feiyang City, on a mountain peak 100 li away. Whoosh 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 whoosh. A series of piercing sounds could be heard, causing the space above to tremble violently. Following this, several figures descended from the sky, which turned out to be Yang Fengzhu, Peak Leader Han, the Slaughter City Lord, the Gambling City Lord, and the rest of the Peak Leaders. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Behind the Peak Leaders, a few more figures descended. These figures were the saint of the Qinglong sacred area, Zhou Xian, the prospective saints Li Tao, Yi Gu, Wan Changyan, Dao Pali, Long Shuang, Long Xian, Lu Jin, the saint of Feiyang City, Lu Tiangang, the saintess of the Trading Alliance, Jiang Bailan, and the strongest cultivator of the lower district, Xiao Zhonghuang. So many peak leaders and geniuses were here. Let's follow Jiang Bailan's plan this time. Remember, you only have half the period it takes an incense to burn. Within this time, you must kill them all with a single blow. Yang Fengzhu snapped as his eyes flickered ferociously. Qin Nan. Chapter 441. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 443 Purple Cloud Tribulation, Heaven Illuminating Godly Mirror, Transcend the Heavens and Earth. Yang Fengzhu waved his hand, causing the heaven-illuminating godly mirror to rise into the air and fire a beam of light into the sky. A moment later, the Demon King's Valley appeared in the heaven-illuminating godly mirror, with the figures of Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao clearly visible. 79-Everyone, attack at once and conceal the heavenly fortune. Yang Fengzhu uttered a roar, causing the 18 peak leaders to respond and attack the heaven-illuminating godly mirror at the same time. At that instant, the aura above the Demon King's Valley suddenly became distorted, before it returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Jiang Bailan wore a cold grin on her face. This was her plan. Using the peak leaders to conceal the aura of the Demon King's Valley, before teleporting the geniuses into the Demon King's Valley to kill Qin Nan. The reason why it was so complicated was because the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was still in the Qinglong sacred area. Even though the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was dying, he was still the godly object of the Ocean of Death, thus his cultivation was extremely terrifying. Even the authority of the Upper District or Sacred Leader Feiyang of the Lower District would not dare to move against him. If the peak leaders were to teleport into the Demon King's Valley, their auras would be too powerful. Even if they were to conceal the heavenly fortune, they would still be aware of their presence. As such, the peak leaders were required to conceal the heavenly fortune before teleporting the geniuses to the Demon King's Valley. Even with the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon's outstanding cultivation, it would take him at least half the period it took an incense to burn before he was aware of the anomaly. With such a great plan, I'll personally deal with him. This Qin Nan should feel honored to die. Xiao Zhonghuang's face was filled with disdain. Love go little say, the peak masters agreed to Jiang Bailan's plan because they were afraid that Qin Nan would pose a threat to them in the Sea of Death. Xiao Zhonghuang, on the other hand, did not think much of it. Qin Nan only had a 10th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit, there was no way he could compete with him. The difference between a Xian-class martial spirit and an Earth-class martial spirit was like the difference between Earth and Earth. He had personally taken action because he had long been extremely displeased with Qin Nan. Qin Nan had harmed his second and third brothers, and had caused him to be unable to obtain Jiang Bailan. If he couldn't kill Qin Nan with his own hands, it would be hard for him to vent his hatred. Void Break Shift. At this moment, the Slaughter City Lord made his move. Countless bloody rays shot out from the tip of his fist and smashed into the void, spreading out into a huge formation with bloody runes. The center of the formation was twisting and rolling like a whirlpool. Go! Xiao Zhonghuang shouted loudly. His aura surged like a rainbow as he took the lead and stepped into the formation. Behind him, Jiang Bailan, Zhou Xian, Lu Tiangang, and the others exchanged glances and quickly entered. Demon King's Valley. Love Go Xiao Saith Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao were completely unaware of what was happening in the outside world. It's impossible to kill all the demonic creatures here. Qin Nan mumbled to himself. Surrounding the Demon King's Valley were countless demonized cultivators charging toward them like a swarm of locusts. Furthermore, their cultivations continued to improve, which had now reached the first layer martial ancestor realm. Qin Nan had tried to peek into the Demon King's Valley with his left eye of the divine god of battle, but the aura was too mysterious for him to peek through. I'm the princess of the Lost Herb Garden. I've been cooperating with the heavens for the past 10,000 years. I've survived the great calamity, and now that I've regained my throne, I hope the heavens will grant me the godly herb emperor tribulation in consideration of the contributions of my ancestors and the suffering of the herb garden. When I've regained my peak and become a godly herb, I'll surely be grateful. Princess Miao Miao held her palms together in an extraordinary manner while uttering a soft hum. At that instant, her entire body emitted a gentle, white glow, which was extremely eye-catching amid the demonic chi in the surroundings, as if she was a fairy, sacred and flawless. Following her hum, a series of ripples appeared in the air. Qin Nan raised his head after being aware of something after kicking the 8th third-layer martial ancestor realm demonic creatures away. Following a glimpse, his expression changed slightly. A solemn aura could be felt in the sky, as a faint purple cloud appeared out of nowhere and slowly floated toward them, ignoring the overwhelming demonic chi in the Demon King's valley. A purple thunder cloud? Qin Nan took a deep breath. It was his first time seeing something like this. Following this, the purple cloud grew thicker, as if there was a vortex above Princess Miao Miao, absorbing the purple cloud from the heavens and earth. In the blink of an eye, the purple cloud covered an area with a circumference of 3,333 li, completely encapsulating the mountains on both sides of the Demon King's valley. Within the purple cloud, thunderous roars could be heard, as if they had originated from ancient times, causing the place to be filled with terrifying explosions, causing the ears of the crowd to buzz. Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously. Even with his cultivation, he would be instantly killed by the terrifying tribulation. Spirit Sealing Formation. Princess Miao Miao uttered a roar as she reached out her left hand and gathered the herbs in her palm, forming an illusionary six-colored flower. She then slammed it onto the ground, causing it to sprout into the air. Buzz. An ancient chime could be heard as an ancient formation was summoned on the dojo. Despite the terrifying presence of the tribulation, the aura emitted by the formation was not intimidating at all. Seal. Princess Miao Miao flicked her finger, causing the ancient formation to sprang into the sky and encapsulate the 3,333 li area of the tribulation. Countless arcane glows intertwined with one another, which transformed into an ancient godly dragon suppressing the center of the tribulation, causing the aura of the tribulation to drop rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the aura of the tribulation dropped over 10 times. Qin Nan, come and help me! Princess Miao Miao yelled. Got it! Qin Nan spat out a stream of vermilion bird flames, which burned the demonic being into ashes, before he landed on the dojo with a leap. Even though most of the force of the tribulation was sealed off, Qin Nan could still feel his scalp turning numb as he stood below it. Bang! 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 It was as if the tribulation within the 3,333 li area had its own consciousness. After being aware that its force was sealed off, the lightning in the sky poured down like a flood, causing the entire Demon King's valley to be covered in a snow-white glow. Left eye of the divine god of battle, thunder of the sky. Qin Nan uttered a roar as his 21 dragon-lined golden nascent soul was unleashed, causing his left eye to emit a brilliant glow, which summoned a starry sky filled with rumbling lightning, resisting the tribulation with brute force. Kill! Princess Miao Miao raised her head. Not only was a boundless sword intent burst out from her body, countless artifacts emitting colorful glows sprang into the sky and shattered the lightning. However, at that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Chapter 442. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 444, Cursing the Princess to Death. Qin Nan and Princess Miao Miao, who were standing in the midst of the thunderous storm, immediately glanced toward the source of the commotion. 79XS, both of their expressions changed at the same time when they saw what was going on. Why are they here? And that's... Qin Nan immediately saw Zhou Xian and the 7 prospective saints of the Qinglong sacred area, Jiang Bailan and 2 young men. These 2 young men possessed powerful auras. One of them was on par with Zhou Xian, while the other one's aura was even stronger than Zhou Xian's. Even his martial spirit was first-grade D ranked. First-grade D ranked martial spirit? Who is that? Could it be Xiao Zhonghuang? Isn't he a half-D-ranked martial spirit? Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat. He soon realized that this person was Xiao Zhonghuang, who was concealing the rank of his martial spirit. Otherwise, no one in the entire lower district would possess a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. Even Zhou Xian only possessed an 8th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. Such a powerful tribulation. The eyes of Xiao Zhonghuang and his crew flickered with astonishment. They had not noticed anything from the heaven-illuminating godly mirror, but they finally realized how terrifying the tribulation was after witnessing it in person. Qin Nan. Jiang Bailan's eyes emitted an icy murderous intent as she snapped, "You won't be able to escape this time." Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian attacked together. Got it. Lu Tiangang and Zhou Xian nodded their heads, before their figures transformed into 2 rays of light and sprang into the sky with a terrifying aura. As the saints of the Feiyang Sacred Area and the Qinglong Sacred Area, their cultivations had both reached the 3rd-layer martial dominator realm, and they had mastered various kinds of move. Now that they had joined hands, countless mystical glows were emitted, resulting in a shocking sight. Qin Nan, since you dare to oppose me, today is the day you die. Xiao Zhonghuang stood in the distance with his hands clasped behind his back, looking down at Qin Nan from a lofty position. Beside him, Jiang Bailan and the 7 prospective saints of the Qinglong Sacred Area immediately unleashed their auras into Xiao Zhonghuang's body according to the plan. Xiao Zhonghuang swiftly clenched his fists and executed a killing blow by combining the cultivations of the 8 cultivators. Not good. Qin Nan's expression changed. This group's plan was very simple. They wanted to use Zhou Xian and Xiao Zhonghuang to stall him while Xiao Zhonghuang unleashed his killer move. If it was any other time, he wouldn't be afraid at all. But now, Princess Miao Miao was at the critical moment of her tribulation. "Princess, you hold the fort for a while. I'll get rid of these people quickly." Qin Nan's eyes revealed a trace of killing intent. Initially, he thought that he would only encounter this group of people after 6 months. He did not expect that after only 3 days, this group of people would not hesitate to cross the void and specifically come to kill him. Did he really think that he was a pushover? Piss off. Qin Nan uttered a roar as his figure was engulfed in the flames of the phoenix, which fired at Zhou Xian and Lu Tiangong's figures. Such a powerful cultivation. Zhou Xian and Lu Tiangong's expressions changed tremendously. How was this possible? Wasn't Qin Nan's strength at the peak of the martial ancestor realm? Why was he so terrifying now? As saints, their reactions were outstanding. They immediately uttered roars and unleashed various treasures to encapsulate their figures. Despite that, their figures were still knocked backward by Qin Nan's ferocious attack. How is this possible? Jiang Bailan and the 7 prospective saints of the Qinglong Sacred Area were startled. They clearly remembered that 3 days ago, Qin Nan's cultivation was not this powerful. Jiang Bailan, in particular, was only at the martial emperor realm when she fought against Qin Nan previously. Now that it had been more than a month, her cultivation had only reached the 5th-layer martial ancestor realm with the full support of the trading alliance. However, Qin Nan's strength was even stronger than Zhou Xian and Lu Tiangong's. How terrifying was his cultivation speed. Such a powerful strength, I can't let you live. Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes emitted a shocking murderous intent. Love Go Xiaosei Kuhi was the only peerless genius of the lower district. Chaotic 4 primordial demons, myriad negative effects, space-crossing curse, fall of the emperors. Xiao Zhonghuang uttered a roar as his hands emitted a tremendous demonic glow, which absorbed the cultivation of the 7 prospective saints of the Qinglong Sacred Area and Jiang Bailan. Following this, a black skeleton slowly floated above his hand. With a shove, the black skeleton instantly appeared before Qin Nan as if it had entered a rift. Before Qin Nan could react, the black skeleton penetrated his forehead. Qin Nan's movement came to a halt. The black skeleton had penetrated his divine sense and exploded into a boundless destructive force, trying to erase his life force and the force of his soul. Ha! Xiao Zhonghuang burst out laughing. The move he used was his strongest technique, the primordial curse-killing technique. Once it was used, the curse would descend. Even if one's cultivation base was 2 or 3 levels higher than his, as long as they were hit, they would be killed by the curse power. It was incomparably domineering. Furthermore, the chaotic curse art had combined the cultivation of the 7 prospective saints and Jiang Bailan. Even a 5th-layer martial dominator realm cultivator would be killed by the curse. Bang! All of a sudden, the copper mirror in Qin Nan's divine sense shuddered violently and unleashed a boundless force, devouring the force of the curse. That was close. Qin Nan was soaked in cold sweat. If it weren't for the copper mirror protecting his divine sense, the chaotic curse art would have killed him. The smile on Xiao Zhonghuang's face instantly stiffened seeing this. In addition to him, Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian, Jiang Bailan, and the 7 prospective saints were stunned too. It was useless? That was the chaotic curse art, but it had no effect on Qin Nan? What kind of joke was this? Since you've come all the way here to hunt me down, I shall eliminate all of you today. Qin Nan's figure was engulfed in the flames of the phoenix, which transformed into a blazing figure charging in Xiao Zhonghuang's direction. His current strength was extraordinary. He would have no problem fighting against 10 opponents at once, let alone 5 at once. Crap, the plan has failed. The chaotic curse art is useless against Qin Nan. Now that Qin Nan's strength is so powerful, there's no way we can eliminate him within half the period it takes an incense to burn. Are we going to return empty-handed this time? If we can't kill Qin Nan this time, we won't be able to eliminate him within half a year once he returns to the Qinglong sacred area. Countless thoughts flashed across Jiang Bailan's mind. In the nick of time, she glanced into the distance and immediately paused. Princess Miao Miao endured the terrifying tribulation with a pale face. She immediately came up with a vicious plan and transmitted it into Xiao Zhonghuang's mind. Qin Nan, I'll show you who's the real peerless genius today. Xiao Zhonghuang immediately uttered a roar as a boundless aura burst out from his body, as if an emperor had descended upon the mundane world. His hand seal was executed once again, executing another chaotic curse art. The art is obviously useless against me, but they still dare to execute it? Could it be? Qin Nan immediately realized that something was not right. Although Xiao Zhonghuang was scornful and disrespectful, he would not be so stupid as to charge at him. It was obvious that he had some other intentions. Crap, it's Princess Miao Miao. Qin Nan's expression turned pale. The purple cloud tribulation was incredibly powerful, and Princess Miao Miao was already in great danger facing it on her own. If he were to make his move now, he would surely inflict serious damage to her. Such a vicious plan. Piss off! Qin Nan's left eye immediately transformed into a starry sky filled with endless thunderbolts, which intertwined into a sea of lightning, trying to devour Xiao Zhonghuang's figure. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression turned pale. He did not expect Qin Nan's strength to be this powerful. Even his scalp turned numb from the thunderbolt. Use this talisman. Jiang Bailan had already predicted this, thus she uttered a scream and took out an ancient talisman. The 7 prospective saints immediately understood her intention, who immediately unleashed their martial spirits and inserted their full force into the talisman, causing it to burn vigorously and emit a mystical glow that encapsulated Xiao Zhonghuang's figure. Xiao Zhonghuang's figure instantly vanished within the sea of lightning, before reappearing behind Qin Nan. It turned out that the ancient talisman was known as the Fulgurating Shadow. Only those with a cultivation of the 5th-layer martial dominator realm or above would be able to teleport the person using it. Qin Nan's hair instantly stood on end as he turned around and prepared to execute his killing blow. Xiao Zhonghuang let out a cruel grin while staring at Princess Miao Miao, whose aura was extremely weak within the sea of lightning. He then fired the black skeleton in his hand, which transformed into a black ray that entered Princess Miao Miao's body. No! Qin Nan let out a roar as his face instantly turned pale white. Change! Jiang Bailan's face turned pale too as she activated the talisman with a flick of her wrist, teleporting Xiao Zhonghuang's figure back to her. Now, an hour had passed, and many of the geniuses were exhausted. Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian, and the rest, as well as the 7 prospective saints, had all jumped into the bloody tunnel. Jiang Bailan and Xiao Zhonghuang followed suit. However, Xiao Zhonghuang did not forget to burst out laughing before leaving. Ha 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 ha, Qin Nan, I didn't expect your strength to be this powerful, but so what? This girl is someone important to you, right? Now that she has been cursed by me, not only will she not be able to overcome the tribulation, she will also die. Even the sacred leader won't be able to save her. Ha 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 ha. Accompanied by a maniacal laugh, his figure disappeared, and the blood-colored passageway completely closed. Amidst the purple thunderbolts, the princess, who had been weakened by the thunderbolts, was struck by the primordial chaos curse-killing technique. Her pale face instantly turned black. Her cultivation seemed to have been devoured, and she couldn't release the slightest bit of it. The many magic treasures around her dimmed and fell to the ground. Chapter 443. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 445. An Old Friend, Princess. Qin Nan's eyes reddened as his emotions turned crazy. Advertisement, access. Qin Nan, return to the Qinglong sacred area first. At that instant, a loud roar could be heard coming from above the Demon King's valley, which turned out to be the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at the space below him and reached out his hand, shattering the purple thunderbolts in an instant. Following this, he flung his sleeves and brought Qin Nan back to the Qinglong sacred area. On the Duanmu mountain of the Qinglong sacred area stood 2 figures, one of whom was Sima Kong. Sima Kong clenched his teeth with a furious expression. That old asshole Sacred Lord Blue Dragon had dumped him in a small country. Was Sima Kong really that scared of death? Why couldn't he stay at the Qinglong sacred area? In the end, it took him 3 days and 3 nights to return to the Qinglong sacred area. Is Qin Nan really here at the Qinglong sacred area? The woman standing beside Sima Kong asked in a doubtful tone. If Qin Nan were here, he would surely recognize the woman as Xiao Qingxue. After leaving the Xianling clan, Xiao Qingxue had traveled to various countries, and her cultivation had reached the 3rd layer martial emperor realm. When she heard about the great change in the Qinglong sacred area, and the duel between Qin Nan and Xiao Zhonghuang, she immediately made up her mind to come to the Qinglong sacred area. However, she happened to stumble into Sima Kong, who was on his way back. After learning Sima Kong's identity, she followed Sima Kong to the Qinglong sacred area. Sima Kong was attracted by her beauty and the long journey ahead, and was told that she was Qin Nan's old friend, thus he decided to bring her along. Sima Kong's original grief and indignation became even more depressed. Originally, he had some thoughts about Xiao Qingxue, but who would have thought that this beautiful woman would only ask about Qin Nan all the way and never look at him? Boom! At this moment, the void shattered, and the figure of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon suddenly descended. Sima Kong, who was filled with grief and indignation, jumped up when he saw the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. He completely forgot about the Sacred Lord's cultivation and was about to curse. "You're the Sacred Lord Qin Nan? Princess Miao Miao?" Halfway through his scolding, he saw Qin Nan, whose eyes were bloodshot, and Princess Miao Miao, whose aura was fading away. His expression changed. Xiao Qingxue glanced toward the scene too, and immediately saw Qin Nan carrying Princess Miao Miao in a frenzied manner while emitting a terrifying aura, causing her to swallow the words she was about to blurt out. "Wake up!" The sacred Lord Blue Dragon uttered a roar. It was as if Qin Nan had been struck by lightning, causing the redness in his eyes to fade away, as he regained his clarity. However, the agony on his face remained the same as he screamed, "Sacred Leader, save her!" The sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at Princess Miao Miao and frowned. When he saw the agony on Qin Nan's face, he let out a sigh and said, "She was inflicted with Xiao Zhonghuang's chaos curse, which has corroded her soul and mind. It's quite difficult to save her now, Xiao Zhonghuang? What's going on?" Sima Kong immediately executed an Xian technique and glanced at Princess Miao Miao. He was dumbfounded after taking a glimpse. As the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had mentioned, the force of the curse had corroded Princess Miao Miao's soul. He could only see Princess Miao Miao's face turning pitch black. Her petite figure was shivering in fear, while her hand was grabbing Qin Nan's shirt tightly, as if she was trying her best to hold on to something, unwilling to give up. Love go little say, ko this time, it was not only the chaos curse that had harmed her. As a nine-spirited ascended ginseng, the tribulation of the martial dominator realm was extremely important to her. During the tribulation, she had been inflicted with a deadly curse. In the end, the tribulation of the purple clouds was shattered by the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, causing her primary force to be severely damaged. Furthermore, she had been inflicted with a curse when her primary force was severely damaged. It was easy to imagine how serious the damage was. Save her. As long as you save her, I'm willing to do anything. Qin Nan's eyes were fixed on the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. He did not notice the presence of Sima Kong and Xiao Qingxue as he spoke with a hoarse voice. "Wake up first." The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's eyes flickered as he spoke. This woman's identity is quite special. The first tribulation is extremely important to her. Since she has yet to overcome the tribulation, her primary force is severely damaged. It's not too difficult to repair it with your chaos chi. However, the force of the curse has already corroded her soul. It's possible to save her, but you'll need something else. What is it? Qin Nan felt like he had seen a glimpse of hope after hearing this. He immediately ignored the question that the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had mentioned and asked. "The blood essence of a member of the Xiao clan." The sacred Lord Blue Dragon said, "You'll need the blood essence of a member of the Xiao clan as a guide, and with the help of various herbs, in order to remove the force of the curse." The blood essence of a member of the Xiao clan? Qin Nan immediately recalled his first senior brother, Zhao Feng, after hearing this. It was impossible for the third son of the Xiao clan to obtain the blood essence from Xiao Zhonghuang, as his second brother, Xiao Hong, had been killed by him, while his third brother, Xiao Feiping, had become Zhao Feng's admirer. However, Zhao Feng's whereabouts were unknown due to the great incident that had taken place at the Qinglong sacred area. "All right, I'll look for the blood essence." Qin Nan took a deep breath and said, "Sacred Leader, before that, I need to borrow some primary stones from you, the more the better." The sacred Lord Blue Dragon did not waste any time. With a flick of his sleeve, a total of 8,000 primary stones landed in Qin Nan's hand. Qin Nan immediately sat down with his legs crossed and devoured the 8,000 primary stones. The divine battle spirit did not rank up, as it had produced 30 streams of chaos chi. Qin Nan did not hesitate as he inserted the 30 streams of chaos chi into Princess Miao Miao's body. Princess Miao Miao's petite figure shuddered violently as her rapidly dissipating aura recovered rapidly, which was even purer than before. However, the dark expression on her face did not change at all, as a hint of a deathly aura was emitted from her body. "I'll go look for Zhao Feng now." Qin Nan felt like his heart was being stabbed by a knife after seeing her reaction. He withheld his emotions and prepared to leave the place. Qin Nan. At that instant, a familiar voice could be heard. Qin Nan halted in his tracks and turned around, before he immediately saw Sima Kong and Xiao Qingxue. When he saw Xiao Qingxue, he was slightly taken aback, because he had never thought that he would meet her again here. I'm from the Xiao clan. I can use my blood essence to save the princess, Xiao Qingxue said softly. In addition to Qin Nan, even Sima Kong was stunned. This beautiful woman was from the Xiao clan? Xiao Qingxue explained. I'm from the same father as Xiao Zhonghuang and the others. However, when I was born, I was expelled from the Xiao clan due to my martial spirit being only 8th grade Huang ranked, and ended up with the Xianling clan. Back then, I had always had doubts about my identity. Later, through the oral message left behind by my adoptive parents and my own investigations, I found out about this news. Sima Kong's eyes were filled with anger after hearing this. Even though Xiao Qingxue's tone was calm, how much bitterness was contained within her words. She was expelled from the Xiao clan just because her martial spirit's rank was not high enough. How could the people of the Xiao clan be so cruel and shameless? Qin Nan did not expect to hear such shocking news after reuniting with Xiao Qingxue. At that instant, he was left speechless. That's enough, I'll save the princess. Xiao Qingxue's eyes flickered with a hint of realization as she glanced at Qin Nan and said, This martial world is extremely cruel. The rank of martial spirits has ruined many people's lives. I initially planned to come to the Qinglong sacred area to meet you. I'm satisfied after seeing the current you. Now that I'm able to help, I'm happy. Previously at the Xianling clan, she had almost caused Qin Nan's death due to the incident with Ouyang Jun. As such, she had left the Xianling clan due to the guilt in her heart. She could not deny that she had fallen in love with Qin Nan. However, after traveling to different countries, she realized that in this world, many people were destined to have different fates. Even if Qin Nan were to accept her, when Qin Nan achieved the martial dominator realm or the martial sacred realm, she would turn into a skeleton in less than 100 years. However, she had thought it through. Perhaps one day, when she was old, the people of the lower district would be talking about Qin Nan's extraordinary strength. She would stay in a small residence and reminisce about their first encounter in Linshui City, which was enough for her. As for Qin Nan, he needed a peerless beauty by his side to accompany him on his journey to the top. Thank you. Qin Nan spoke in a soft tone after a slight hesitation. His heart skipped a beat as he glanced at the princess whose face was as black as a corpse. Chapter 444. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 446. Shameless to the Extreme, Mind of the Heavens, Follow My Will. Blood Essence of the Xiao Clan, Out. Xiao Qingxue did not say anything. She flicked her finger and spat out a drop of blood from the tip of her finger. However, as soon as the drop of blood was spat out, her aura dropped rapidly, causing her to stumble and almost fall to the ground. Sima Kong, who was standing beside her, immediately reached out his hand to support her. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good review. Qinglong Sacred Fruit. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon uttered a roar as he took out an ancient fruit. The fruit had a mystical Qinglong coiling around it, as if it had come alive. If the people of the Qinglong sacred area were to be here, they would be dumbfounded. The Qinglong sacred fruit was undoubtedly a sacred object in the Qinglong sacred area. It would take 100 years for one of them to be produced. The sacred fruit will melt, the blood will be refined, and the calamities of the world will be eliminated. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon flicked his finger, causing the Qinglong sacred fruit to melt on its own, encapsulating the blood essence within it, resulting in a stream of blood flowing toward Princess Meow Meow from the sky, which slowly entered Princess Meow Meow's body. Princess Meow Meow's figure shuddered violently, as the darkness on her face rapidly dissipated. Her tightly shut eyes began to tremble slightly, as if they were going to sprang open at any second. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon seemed to be worn out as he calmly said, "All right, she will recover in 3 months' time. However, as she has yet to overcome the tribulation, and she is currently under the curse, I'm afraid her cultivation will not improve in 3 years' time." 3 years. Qin Nan, Sima Kong, and Xiao Qingxue held their breaths. In the martial world, 3 years' time was only the blink of an eye, but it was enough for one's cultivation to improve significantly. Although Princess Meow Meow was saved, she had suffered heavy losses. "It doesn't matter. 3 years it is. I'll definitely be able to find you a lot of spiritual medicines that will allow you to advance again and undergo the tribulation." Qin Nan looked at Princess Meow Meow with a resolute gaze. As long as she was still alive, everything was fine. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. A ferocious aura suddenly exploded within the Qinglong sacred area. "Ha ha ha ha, old prick, I've finally done it. Ha ha ha, I can finally enjoy the 16 mountains, and all the junior and senior sisters will be mine." Then, a figure soared into the sky. This person was none other than the Longhu ancestor beast. At this moment, 100 miles away from Feiyang City. Boom! The rift shattered as Xiao Zhonghuang and the others stepped out from it. Yang Fengzhu and the others had been waiting for a long time. Seeing them come out, they quickly asked, "How was it? How was the battle?" "Qin Nan is still alive," Xiao Zhonghuang said in a calm tone. "What?" Peak leader Yang and the rest of the peak leaders were startled, before a hint of disappointment could be seen on their faces. Even with so many peak leaders and geniuses involved, they still failed to kill Qin Nan. "Although I didn't manage to kill him, he was severely injured." Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes flickered slightly as he placed his hands behind him and said in a prideful tone, "Qin Nan's injury is not that serious, but his beloved woman, who is called Princess Meow Meow, has been struck by my chaos curse. Even the sacred Lord Blue Dragon has no chance of saving her life. Even if she is saved, she would be crippled." Xiao Zhonghuang harumphed after saying this. "If it weren't for the lack of time, Qin Nan would surely be killed by me." The moment these words left his mouth, Peak Master Yang and the others could not help but feel shocked. Although he had failed to kill Qin Nan, being able to kill Princess Meow Meow and inflict severe injuries on Qin Nan was not a bad outcome. This alone was enough to prove that Qin Nan was no match against Xiao Zhonghuang. Jiang Bailan's eyes flickered as she said, "Peak leaders, we can spread the news that Qin Nan was severely injured by Xiao Zhonghuang, and that his beloved woman died trying to save his life. With this, the entire lower district will curse at Qin Nan, which will bring him great pressure when the Ocean of Death is activated." "Brilliant! Brilliant!" Yang Fengzhu was overjoyed after hearing this, who burst out laughing, "I'll send someone to spread the news." The peak leaders were in a great mood after hearing the news. As for Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian, and the rest of the geniuses, they remained silent throughout the process. Everything that Xiao Zhonghuang had said was a lie. They were no match against Qin Nan. Even Xiao Zhonghuang's chaos curse had no effect on Qin Nan. However, Xiao Zhonghuang had purposely said this to ensure the peak leader's confidence in him would not be shaken. "I'll go into seclusion at once for the upcoming battle. After that, this scum Qin Nan will surely be crushed by me. Follow me, and you will be rewarded greatly." Xiao Zhonghuang transmitted his voice to the geniuses. Although he had lied, he was not stupid. Qin Nan's strength was too powerful. If he did not improve his strength, he would most likely be knocked out of the Ocean of Death before he could ascend to the Reaper's platform. Therefore, he had to improve his strength. The other geniuses nodded their heads. They were already tied to Xiao Zhonghuang's side, thus there was no way out. After a while, the news was first spread in Feiyang City. Countless people in Feiyang City were astounded. Haha, senior brother Xiao is the real top genius. Who the F*** K is this Qin Nan? Humph, if it weren't for the sacred Lord Blue Dragon protecting Qin Nan, he would have been killed by our senior brother Xiao long ago. Tsk, let's just let Qin Nan live for a few more months. Once the Ocean of Death is activated, we shall see how our senior brother Xiao is going to crush him under his feet. He still dares to challenge senior brother Xiao. What a joke! Both the people of the Feiyang sacred area and the cultivators who had betrayed the Qinglong sacred area and joined the Feiyang sacred area began to express their thoughts. After the battle, they were extremely impressed by Xiao Zhonghuang's capabilities. Meanwhile, with Jiang Bailan's help, the news spread to the various countries of the lower district as if it had grown wings. The cultivators of the lower district were astounded once again. What? Xiao Zhonghuang had a battle with Qin Nan? Gasp! Xiao Zhonghuang is so terrifying, defeating Qin Nan with a single attack. What a surprise! Qin Nan was defeated with a single attack, and even his beloved woman was killed. The difference between him and Xiao Zhonghuang is not small at all. The Qinglong sacred area is going to decline. The sacred lord is going to die, and even the only saint, Qin Nan, is no match against Xiao Zhonghuang. Come, let's go to the Feiyang sacred area and have a look. I have an uncle there, let's try to establish a good relationship with him. Countless people shook their heads one after another. If it was said that many of them had high hopes for Qin Nan at the Ocean of Death in 6 months' time, that hope had completely vanished now. If his cultivation was weaker than Xiao Zhonghuang's, how could he compete with him at the Ocean of Death? Chapter 445. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 447. Overwhelming murderous intent. While the lower district was filled with disdain in the Qinglong sacred area, Love Go Little Say Ku 79 XS, Qin Nan and the others were attracted by the burst of laughter. They raised their heads and saw the Longhu ancestor beast wearing a high-spirited expression. The Longhu ancestor beast's appearance remained the same. On his handsome face, the 2 bumps on his forehead were even more swollen, as if there were 2 small balls on his forehead. Together with his scornful laughter, it was quite a hilarious sight. The Longhu ancestor beast was feeling extremely pleasant at that moment. In a forbidden area of the Qinglong sacred area, there was an ancient dragon corpse, which had been placed there by the Duanmu mountain lord due to his bloodline. The Duanmu mountain lord even threatened him that if he failed to refine the corpse, he would not be able to come out from seclusion for the rest of his life. The Longhu ancestor beast was extremely furious, but he was no match against the Duanmu mountain lord, thus he had no choice but to refine the dragon corpse. After a few months, he had finally finished refining the dragon corpse, causing his cultivation to skyrocket. Where is she? What's going on? After the Longhu ancestor beast uttered a roar, he immediately realized why the spacious sacred area was so quiet. He immediately scanned his surroundings and saw the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, Qin Nan, and the others, as well as the dying Princess Miao Miao. His expression instantly changed greatly. What's going on? What exactly happened? How did Princess Miao Miao suffer such a serious injury? A series of questions were fired at the Longhu ancestor beast like a cannonball. Qin Nan, who was originally stunned, became silent. He looked at Princess Miao Miao and did not say anything. Longhu, the other disciples of the Qinglong sacred area, have betrayed us and joined the Feiyang sacred area. Sima Kong was familiar with Longhu, as he had come here together with Qin Nan. He immediately told the Longhu Dominator Beast everything that had happened. As for why Princess Miao Miao was severely injured, he did not know much. He only knew that Xiao Zhonghuang had injured her. The Longhu Ancestor Beast stared with his eyes open wide, as he did not expect so many things to happen in such a short period of time. However, as he collected his thoughts, his eyes glanced toward Qin Nan, as his eyes were filled with raging flames. Qin Nan! The Longhu Ancestor Beast uttered a raging roar with bloodshot eyes. Are you King a man? Miao Miao has been with you for so long, and every time she was injured because of you, you son of a bitch! It was the same in the Longhu mountain range. It was the same in the Xianling clan. And now it was the same. Do you think with her identity she has to follow you around? She's just returning the favor. She's staying here just to help you. To everyone's surprise, the Longhu Ancestor Beast exploded all of a sudden. His roar caused the entire place to vibrate. But look at what you've done to her every time? The Longhu Ancestor Beast uttered an even louder roar. Tell me, isn't she injured because of you every time? Are you King shameless enough to say that? Sima Kong and the others were stunned. Qin Nan did not look at him, but stared at Princess Miao Miao in silence. Only now did he understand that the reason she stayed by his side was to help him. Previously at the Longhu mountain range, when he was devoured by the left eye of the divine god of battle, she had sacrificed her primary force to save his life. It was extremely important for her to rank up to the martial dominator realm, thus she had specifically invited him to help her. However, she almost died because of him. Even if she was saved, she would not be able to rank up her cultivation within 3 years. The Longhu Ancestor Beast was right. He had always been a burden to her. Shush! At that instant the space was torn apart, as Tang Qingshan's figure stepped out from it all of a sudden. As soon as he stepped out, he scanned the surroundings and let out a sigh of relief after seeing that Princess Miao Miao was still alive, before he snapped, Qin Nan, what exactly happened? The entire lower district is talking about how Xiao Zhonghuang defeated you with a single attack? Did a battle break out between you two? After hearing the words, the Longhu Ancestor Beast's face exploded with anger. Ha! The Longhu Ancestor Beast burst out laughing while staring at Qin Nan with a disdainful look. Defeated by Xiao Zhonghuang with a single attack? Qin Nan, you King, stay here. At this point, his face suddenly turned ferocious, and his roar exploded in the void. Get out of my way! Get out of my sight at once! Otherwise I'll kill you with my own hands! It was the Longhu Ancestor Beast's first time being so furious. Previously, he had bought the Princess Miao Miao at Longhu Mountain, and was quite fond of her when he first saw her real appearance. However, the Princess Miao Miao did not even bother to look at him. Later on, when Princess Miao Miao saved Qin Nan's life, his heart was filled with jealousy, sorrow, and admiration at the same time, which was why he decided to lend Qin Nan a hand. Later on, after witnessing Qin Nan's achievements, he secretly believed that only Qin Nan was worthy enough to be with the princess. And the result? He did not bring her any benefits, but brought her endless harm. How could the Longhu Ancestor Beast not be furious? What kind of man is he if he can't even protect his woman? Tang Qingshan, Sima Kong, and the others were stunned, as they had no idea what was going on. Qin Nan did not look at the Longhu Ancestor Beast, but remained silent as he stared at Princess Miao Miao's gradually recovering expression. Die! The Longhu Ancestor Beast was infuriated after seeing Qin Nan's reaction, as he emitted a tremendous murderous intent. Stop it, however, a weak voice could be heard all of a sudden, causing the Longhu Ancestor Beast's figure to stiffen. It turned out to be Princess Miao Miao, who had recovered significantly with the help of the Qinglong sacred fruit, as she gradually opened her eyes. Qin Nan's eyes shuddered violently after seeing this. Longhu. Piss off. Piss off. Princess Miao Miao stared at the Longhu ancestor beast. Despite her weakened state, her eyes were filled with a hint of murderous intent as she cursed with all her might. Who do you think you are? Piss off. The Longhu ancestor beast's expression stiffened. Tang Qingshan, Sima Kong, Xiao Qingxue, and the others raised their eyebrows. Qin Nan. Princess Miao Miao turned around and forced a smile onto her face. Don't feel guilty. It's not your fault. You did well. They are all slandering you. You were the one who defeated Xiao Zhonghuang with a single attack. They are trying to twist the truth. The Longhu ancestor beast's eyes widened as he glanced at Qin Nan. Qin Nan stared at Princess Miao Miao, whose breathing had somehow come to a stop. Don't feel guilty, and don't seek revenge. Princess Miao Miao's voice became weaker. I'm fine. Let me sleep for a while. I'll wake up soon. I'm your master. I'm very powerful. I won't fall down like this. Promise me, don't feel guilty. Saying this, she closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Her attractive face no longer showed any signs of blackness. Although it was still slightly pale, it was filled with a sense of serenity. The surrounding people fell silent. The Longhu ancestor beast, who was initially furious, fell silent too. After a while, Qin Nan, who had been silent all this while, exhaled deeply and rose from the ground. He carried Princess Miao Miao in his arms and handed her to the Longhu ancestor beast, before saying in a calm tone, "Take care of her." The Longhu ancestor beast subconsciously received her and was slightly startled. What are you doing? Qin Nan did not say anything. He turned around and walked toward the exit of the Qinglong sacred area under the crowd's gaze. As he took his first step, a terrifying phoenix flame was ignited on his body, causing him to turn into a fiery giant while uttering a ferocious roar, shattering the rocks on the ground into pieces. As he took his second step, countless sky thunderbolts exploded crazily around his body. As he took his third step, 7 ancient swords were fired into the sky from the storage bag, emitting an icy saber intent. Qin Nan, Yu the Longhu ancestor beast, Sima Kong, and Xiao Qingxue were startled as they guessed something. However, before they could finish, the nascent soul surrounded by countless golden dragons was fired into the sky from Qin Nan's body, resulting in a series of deafening roars. At that instant, a terrifying murderous intent was emitted from Qin Nan's body, causing him to look like a god of slaughter. The reason why he did not respond when the Longhu ancestor beast scolded him was because he had been waiting for Princess Miao Miao to wake up. Now that she was safe, the boulder in Qin Nan's heart was finally lifted. Without any burden, he could no longer suppress the raging flames in his heart, which completely exploded. Back at the martial ancestor mystical ground, Jiang Bailan had set him up. During the grand competition of the 16 mountains, Yang Fengzhu and the others had set him up with multiple traps. During the trip to the Demon King's Valley, Xiao Zhonghuang and the others had teamed up with the prospective saints to assassinate him, causing Princess Miao Miao to be severely injured. Everyone was trying to bully him, right? Everyone was trying to pick on him, right? Everyone was trying to set him up, right? Very well. Chapter 446. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 448. Shocking the sacred ground by one man. Entire Feiyang City was incredibly huge. Under the scorching sunlight, it gave off a magnificent aura, causing one to feel intimidated just by looking at it. That's fast. In Feiyang City, there were palaces of various sizes, which were the Alchemy Hall, the Martial Arts Hall, etc. There were also palaces for the disciples, elders, and peak leaders to stay in. In the Feiyang sacred area, the higher one's cultivation was, the higher their status would be, and the better their palaces would be. As such, battles would take place in Feiyang City all day long. Countless disciples would cultivate crazily in order to stay in the better palaces and obtain greater power. That being said, it was related to Feiyang City too. The Feiyang City was a sacred weapon. Apart from its terrifying power, which was able to destroy a peak leader when it was activated, it could also emit a powerful absorption force when it was lying on the ground, absorbing all the qi, etc. within 10,000 li, or even 100,000 li, toward it. The first sacred leader Feiyang had used this ability to construct palaces of various sizes. The better the palaces were, the stronger the qi would be, which was similar to the Xianling clan in the past. For the past 2 days, no battles took place in Feiyang City as usual. Countless disciples wore smiles on their faces. The reason being that when Xiao Zhonghuang defeated Qin Nan with a single move and killed Qin Nan's beloved woman, sacred leader Feiyang was overjoyed. Thus he immediately gave out the order that everyone, including the peak leaders and the disciples, would be rewarded with abundant cultivation resources in the next 10 days. This caused the cultivators to lose the mood to battle as they began to cultivate. Especially when they heard that Xiao Zhonghuang had immediately gone into seclusion after defeating Qin Nan, which greatly excited them. Xiao Zhonghuang was already so powerful, yet he was still working so hard to cultivate. How could they be lazy? Of course not. They had to focus on their cultivation. Those disciples with a certain level of talent were even more hard-working. 6 months later, the Sea of Death would open. At that time, they would have the opportunity to perform. If they could obtain some fortuitous encounter in the Sea of Death or join forces to defeat Qin Nan, the benefits they could obtain would definitely be endless. Meanwhile, rows of disciples were standing on the walls of Feiyang City. These disciples were similar to the soldiers guarding the door. In fact, they were just putting on an act and putting on airs. This was because sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders were in charge of Feiyang City. Why would they need soldiers to guard the city? He quickly scanned his surroundings with his divine sense. Marshmallow, besides, the current Feiyang sacred area was no longer insignificant. Who would dare to offend them? Even a martial honorable would not have the guts to do so. At this moment, Ying Xuanlong was standing on top of the city wall, gazing into the distant sky. His expression was somewhat unsightly. Although he had to admit that looking into the distance from the top of the 3,000-meter tall city wall and being blown by the strong wind was a form of enjoyment, his mood was really terrible. What? Do you still believe that piece of trash Qin Nan? Brother Ying, you don't have to say that. I do respect you, and I do admit that Qin Nan is quite impressive, but he is nothing compared to our senior brother Xiao. Beside Ying Xuanlong, a young man who was assigned to guard the city said. The young man's name was Jiao Wei, who was quite famous among the geniuses of the Feiyang sacred area. Hee, whatever you say, I won't believe it. Ying Xuanlong let out a hollow laugh. He had never been impressed by anyone in his life, and the first person he was impressed by was none other than Qin Nan. What bullshit is this Xiao Zhonghuang? Isn't he just showing off with his martial spirit? He would not be able to reach 300 steps in front of the 3-layered door, but Qin Nan was able to do it without relying on any external force. Therefore, when he heard that Qin Nan was defeated by Xiao Zhonghuang with a single move, his first reaction was to believe it, while his second reaction was to feel sad. What if Qin Nan's martial spirit's rank was slightly higher? He might be able to turn the tables around. Brother Ying, not that I'm trying to nag you, but since you've joined the Feiyang sacred area, you're now a member of the Feiyang sacred area. Stop mentioning Qin Nan's name. After all, if the prospective saints, the saints, or senior brother Xiao were to hear about it, the consequences would be disastrous. Jiao Wei kindly advised. Ying Xuanlong nodded his head, but he did not agree. He had joined the Feiyang sacred area as a spy. Who would be willing to submit to him? Jia Wei exclaimed all of a sudden, "Is there a sandstorm ahead?" Sandstorm? Ying Xuanlong was startled, before he raised his head and glanced ahead. As he expected, countless sandstorms could be seen flying toward Feiyang City like a giant dragon. This was quite rare, as it was the first time such a sandstorm had occurred within 10,000 li of Feiyang City. Don't worry, all the sandstorms within 100 li of Feiyang City will be shattered. Jia Wei waved his hand. Ying Xuanlong nodded his head. He could not help but admit that the sacred weapon of Feiyang City was quite impressive. However, the next moment their expressions changed. The sandstorm was getting closer and closer. The yellow sand that covered the sky and the earth was stirring up a storm. It was like a demon that would devour people. It gave people a great feeling of shock. 100 li? What's going on? Jia Wei's face was filled with astonishment. The sandstorm was now only 50 li away from them. How was this possible? In the midst of his astonishment, the sandstorm suddenly disappeared, as everything returned to normal. Jia Wei let out a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Our Feiyang City does live up to its name. That was just a small accident. In the history of our Feiyang sacred area, our Feiyang City had once again slain 2 martial highnesses in a war against the Qinglong sacred area. It's quite famous." Bang! A faint crashing sound could be heard. Ying Xuanlong waved his hand to interrupt Jia Wei and said in a confused tone, "Did you hear that? It sounds like someone is knocking on the city gate." "How is that possible?" Jia Wei burst out laughing after hearing this. "Don't you see how powerful our Feiyang sacred area is now? Who dares to knock on our city wall?" Bang! That weak crashing sound suddenly became incomparably loud, forcefully stopping Jia Wei's words halfway through his sentence. "Someone is knocking on the city gate." Ying Xuanlong and Jia Wei exchanged glances with one another. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Who would be so daring to knock on the city gate of Feiyang City? At that instant, a loud explosion took place in Feiyang City. Countless disciples and geniuses were awakened from their cultivation, leaving blank expressions on their faces. What was that sound? Meanwhile, inside a palace, Yang Fengzhu was having fun with 3 female geniuses. In the middle of the fun, one of the female geniuses suddenly said, "Peak leader, didn't you hear the explosion? What kind of bullshit sound is that? Behave yourself." Peak leader Yang cursed. As he was about to continue his fun, a loud explosion took place in Feiyang City, giving him a great fright. Bang! 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 A series of explosions took place all of a sudden, each stronger than the previous one, as if the entire Feiyang City was struck by lightning. The entire Feiyang City instantly became lively. "Who's there? Who's there? How dare you? I think he's tired of living." Several powerful figures were startled, causing their faces to be filled with anger. Currently, someone from the lower district dared to knock on the city gate of their city. How bold of him! As the entire city was immersed in an uproar, Ying Xuanlong and Jia Wei, who were still immersed in astonishment, immediately dashed forward and glanced toward the city gate. They could only see a figure engulfed in phoenix flames and sky thunder, like a giant deity of the heavens and earth, throwing punches after punches onto the 300 zhang tall city wall. "Isn't that Qin Nan?" Ying Xuanlong took a look and was so frightened that his expression changed drastically. Qin Nan. Even Jia Wei was dumbfounded. At that instant, a series of furious roars could be heard coming from Feiyang City, as countless divine senses filled with murderous intent surged toward the entrance of the city, causing the atmosphere at the entrance of Feiyang City to become oppressive, resulting in a series of explosions taking place out of nowhere. Following this, Ying Xuanlong and Jia Wei witnessed an unforgettable scene. Phoenix flames, sky thunder, transform into my godly fist, break. Qin Nan's figure expanded into a giant, as he gathered the phoenix flames and sky thunder onto the tip of his fist. His aura continued to rise, as if he had transformed into an atavistic divine god of battle, who had transformed into everything in the heavens and earth, as he threw the godly fist of the divine god of battle onto the giant gate. Bang! A shocking explosion took place, which struck the hearts of every cultivator of Feiyang City like an ancient curse. Everyone saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. The door, that towered into the clouds and was like an enormous mountain that reached the heavens, was suddenly forcefully blasted apart by a violent force, and it transformed into fragments that covered the heavens and the earth before shooting towards the surroundings, causing it to seem like a shocking calamity. At that instant, both the peak leaders and the disciples were dumbfounded. The city gate of Feiyang City was destroyed. At that instant, in the midst of the explosions, a figure sprang into the sky with a saber in his hand and uttered a shocking roar. "Dogs of Feiyang, show yourselves at once! If a pair comes, I'll kill a pair. If 1,000 comes, I'll kill 1,000. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.